First thing on the agenda is approval of the minutes, which I noticed a little bit,
Cleaned up.
no. I'm trying, they're, as always, they're very good and thorough minutes. These might be a little bit more concise, let's say, okay? But in any event, I actually have one comment about that. Let me pull them up. And see what my comment says. Well, one additional comment, I should say.
Okay.
On number 3, let's see what I say. I'm just suggesting, and let's see, on number 3, application number 3. Okay, sure.
Yeah.
Well, then it wasn't 3. Maybe it was the actual third one.
Which is 4.
Oh, no, I know what it was. Is it the church?
Yeah, with the
That was the
multiple
second
signs?
one?
Yes.
Yes.
That's the
Whichever
second
one the
one.
church was.
That's 4.
All right. We,
It's the second.
pardon me that I'm taking my time to try to find it.
It's 2.
2?
Number 2?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, there you go. It's on
Okay.
Creek Street.
So the board approved 3 of the 4 signs requested. I just think we should have something in there about why we did not approve number 4. Is it? And I didn't see it.
We thought it was not directional, right?
It just, if my memory was, it was sort of too much,
Yeah.
Serving purpose.
right?
You can see one sign from the other sign from the photographs that showed the example. You can see the one, and you can see the next one right after it from
So,
the same
so
point of view.
I'll make a motion to amend the minutes to say the board felt that the sign not approved was redundant and not necessary.
Right.
Okay, so that's my motion.
A second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the minutes with that change. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Great. Thanks. Go to the agenda. All right, tonight's applications. Well, or you want to go to the table? Let's go to the tables. I know that's taking stuff out of order, but let's do that. So, Ellison Heights. Anybody here on, okay, yeah, Ellison Heights, that's right.
Does that need a hearing?
Password here.
Well, that's the
What's
question.
your last
Just your
name?
last name.
It isn't here.
It's not
Ju-
working?
No caps and no spaces or anything, Bruce.
Okay.
That's what mine is.
It's long enough without the space.
Between right here.
So what do we have here? What are you handing out to us?
So I'm handing out signage. So last table, we discussed options instead of the building banners.
Right?
So what I'm handing out is, or other options, and we would like to abandon the building banners and are suggesting photos attached. Sure.
Yeah, I don't need one.
Okay.
Can I ask one question? Edith, this is 2.
Yo,
Similar enough-
yeah, we
Is this similar enough to where we were before that we don't need a new hearing? If we're hearing
Well, I
something
guess you're gonna have to
different?
determine
Okay.
that, yeah.
I believe last hearing, it was the building, this was the sign, but you guys wanted to see a mock of what it would look like
Okay.
by the traffic triangle. So the first picture is on the right side of the triangle, and that is set behind the right-of-way. And the second picture is on the left side of the traffic triangle, and that is also set behind the right-of-way. I also confirmed it with Andy when he stopped by, and we moved all the rest of the signs behind the right-of-way as well. And then in the third picture is an A-frame by Sable Oaks and Old Penfield Road. Fourth picture is another A-frame on Sable Oaks and Old Penfield Road. And one of them has leasing arrows also pointing to the leasing office. And then on the second to last page, those are the now leasing flutter flags that are placed on Old Penfield Road. And those are about 15 feet high. And on the last page is the site map, and I highlighted all areas of signage.
Okay, Mike, go ahead.
Well, I don't know how I can make a determination on this, because for one thing, it's one thing to see this on a mock-up, but I don't know where this is in relation to, I mean, visually. I mean, we needed to see these well before this meeting.
Yeah. And in person, are you saying, or what are you?
I think, I'll interrupt. I mean, I think last time we left by saying we weren't opposed to the idea of having one sign out on the property, but we would like to, if you put a piece of plywood up and let us see where it's going to be, call us, let us know, we can drive by and take a look before a meeting, see how it's, physically going to be sitting out there. That was, I thought, the route we were taking.
So we did put up a mock-up actually, and I called and emailed as well that it was up there. When Andy did come out to check it out, it just wasn't behind the right-of-way at the time. So that's what this picture is showing now, behind the right-of-way, but it was.
So the mock-up that, because I drove by and I saw like a frame, that was
Yeah.
it, right?
Yeah.
Which is
Okay.
what
It was
we
empty.
Yeah, yeah.
discussed would go up, is just a
Alright.
frame, is what we are under discussion.
But is there there's two signs?
There's two of those now and a whole bunch of other ones.
There's two 12x4 signs.
Sandwich signs.
And that is behind the right-of-way, one pointing to one end of Old Penfield Road and one pointing to the bottom hill.
That's the two first photos as well,
Correct,
okay? And then the sandwich signs,
yes.
the little mini flags or whatever you call them, banners.
The flutter flags, yes.
Yes, those would come down if they're not already down, okay.
They come down?
Well, I guess that's
They're
what
up
I'm asking.
now and yeah, I mean, are you asking for those to remain?
The
Yes,
flags.
we're asking for those to remain.
Okay, so everything here, you're asking
Correct.
for permission to remain, okay. All right. So let's talk first about the issue of the notice and the hearing. And to frame the issue, it is, has this request changed so much that we need to re-advertise it and have a public hearing? Does everyone agree that's what the issue is? Is that fairly stated? All right, I'll chime in first on that, and I will say no. I think that the application, typical notice for a sign alerts people in the neighborhood of the concerns that you would have with signs on the ground. Generally speaking, were discussed, not these exact signs, but I think we covered the issues, unless there's something about these particular locations, and there may be. If there is, chime in and let me know. But I just think the factors that we normally and typically consider for signage, we did go over that. We had people chime in on the application, and frankly, I think that's one of the reasons why some changes were made in the application, and that's good. And then we've had people come to the subsequent meetings to give input and to obviously see what action the board would take on it. So I'm not sure how much more interest, I guess, would be sparked by a new hearing, but I'm open to discussion on that.
I would agree with that, but the one thing that I would say is you have 4 flag signs, 2 A-frames, and 2 freestanding signs. And that generates different questions, at least in my mind,
Okay.
that we would need to have, that I would need to have answered before I could make, an intelligent decision as to whether I'm in favor of this or not, so. And that would typically be covered in a public hearing, so.
Yeah, and honestly, I wouldn't oppose that if anybody, even one person felt we needed it. So, anybody else want to chime in, go ahead, but I'm not looking to make extra work for the applicant.
No, and I'm not
It's
either.
already been a matter of months since they first applied.
Yeah, so the
But-
big differences are flutter, at the top of the map here, I guess the north end of this is the flutter flags and A-frames. Everything else is as it was, because those two large signs down by the other entrance were what we suggested, and they were part of it before. They were just on the road on the fence.
Right.
But they were larger. These are larger, I think, those fences.
4 by 12.
But I think they said there were 4 by 8s.
That is another sign that does not need zoning board approval. That is on the construction entrance.
Is that what you're talking about?
No,
I had 4 by 12 in
Yeah,
my notes
so
from
that
last
is-
yeah, these are
time.
the original ones that were
We just
the
placed
same
those
ones on the
the
fence.
On the fence.
Yeah,
Yeah.
or wherever they were, at the roadside.
Well,
We
Mike,
issued a permit for the 4 by 8 that's there, and these two 4 by 12s are an addition to.
but, you know, I think this is yours, isn't it, Mike?
Yeah, it is.
I was gonna say, if you feel that you need to see them, you know, I mean, it was good that you notified Andy, but we weren't notified.
And that's
So-
not on her, though.
No, it's not on you, but, I mean, if you'd like to see it, I don't have a problem tabling it again.
I
Are
guess
they
that,
still up? The mock-up's still up?
We can put one back up. We just have one mock-up that we can at least put up.
I think what I was intending to do is to have you put the two mock-ups representing the signs that you're.
Yeah, the actual signs that you're gonna have there.
I know you had the one up there, but that was not in the right spot, it was in the right
Yeah,
of
can you
way.
put them
Right.
where they're gonna go to?
So you want to see frame, signage, and everything of where they would go, or I mean,
no, just the
No,
frame.
just
Just the
the
frame.
size
Yeah.
and where they are,
Size of
yeah.
just the frame?
And where they're
I
gonna
don't
be
know.
We
located.
pass the deadline for next month.
Or is it
Okay,
today?
so how can we table this and re-advertise as a public hearing?
You can't if you pass the deadline, because that's the problem, is getting it in the Penfield Post for timely advertisement.
And this is all temporary.
Well, that's the other question. How long do you want this up?
It's in
How long do you want the E-frames up?
It was originally from March to August. We are keeping that.
Last
Same thing with the flags?
Yes,
deadline was last.
before that. It's usually on a Thursday.
during leasing season.
The deadline date for the post.
Well, do you have this sign
How about if we
already?
table and reopen the public hearing? Can we do that? I'm trying to save a month here, as you guys can
Yep.
see.
When can you get a notice? Is it too late to get a notice in the paper? That's the key thing, is the notice in the paper. Aside from an applicant, filing deadline for us.
It is too late.
If
Well-
it's too late. You wouldn't be, the problem is you can't get it in the paper.
Let me just ask you a question. Do you have this sign already, obviously, because it's right here, right?
No, that was virtually staged on it.
Oh, okay. All right.
Is it possible that we could make a decision on these two or not? Because we had talked about, like, she did put up the
Yeah, that was part of the
footprint.
original application.
Right, right.
The original notice was, it's an application to allow greater real estate signage than permitted. So
Right,
it's
very
broadly
broad.
worded.
Very broad. Location is important, though.
For me, it would be an issue if it was all of a sudden, like they were adding what was on the building at first. That would be like an issue, but it's now more, in some respects, it seems to be scaled
I'll
down.
reduce that.
Well, it's definitely scaled down.
Yeah.
And it's, otherwise seems to be within.
I went back to the first, where she was at, the first one in February, and we had consider alternatives as far as size and location. That was like the quote, so we couldn't consider it.
Right.
I want to make one other point too. On these flag signs we're now leasing, we had talked originally about showing us some proof as to how many units you had leased, how many expected at least, and somehow that information sort of got dropped.
There's something here.
No,
Well, I provided
I don't know what that
occupancy,
is, yeah.
Goals.
well, the goals as of right now, what was budgeted, and then our actual right now, of where we are, and our May production.
I'm sorry, I didn't see this.
Well, I think the snow and a lot has a lot to do with your under occupancy.
Yeah.
The weather.
Well, it is what it is, guys. If we feel we need a new public hearing, it's not going to be till, what is today, April? It's not going to be till June then.
And this was only supposed to go to August. This
Right.
is temporary signage until August.
Right.
I don't necessarily think we need a new public hearing, but I think we need an opportunity to see where those signs are gonna be placed, which we should be able to do by tabling until next month.
Yeah, okay. That's fine.
So I guess that would be my motion. The table with the idea that you would put up the frames for us in those locations. And it's gonna be similar to the fence sign, yellow, black lettering on yellow.
So the fence sign we actually got rid of as well. That was right there on the triangle. That we got rid of, but it will be similar, yellow with black writing. And behind. It would just be further, and closer to the property,
And you can put
behind the right of way.
the two mock-ups where they're going.
I can get one mock-up probably by tomorrow, and then another one, actually maybe by tomorrow evening, if not Monday morning.
Okay, so we have a motion to table to allow the applicant to put up the mock-ups to allow the board members to drive by and see it. I think it is fair to say that the application is scaled down quite a bit from 2 4x40 building mounted banners to what they are now. So, okay, in any event, we have a motion to table for those reasons. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Okay. Now what? 2 nays.
No.
All right.
Do we need a second to that motion?
Yeah, we
I'll
got.
second it.
I thought we had it from Joe.
The A-frame, is this one sign? One A-frame here on,
Two aprons.
There's two, so there's one right at the corner, and then there is
Right
one
here,
right by the
and one by
entrance.
the stairs.
All right, so that was a 3-2 vote in favor of tabling. The 3 are Larry, Moe, and Curly.
Joe.
I'm not gonna say who's Curly.
no, I know.
Okay?
So in the meantime, we're gonna table it to May, and then sandwich flutter, that's all also being tabled for May.
Talk with Andy about that, but yeah.
I'm sorry, I missed that.
Everything's tabled till May is her question.
All right.
All signage?
Well, I mean, do you have the banners and the sandwich signs?
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
those are actual photos.
April and May, well, it's next month, so forget it.
Yeah,
One.
she can deal with it.
Yep, she can deal with it.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can we just clarify that vote? I'm sorry.
3-2 in favor of a motion to table.
Okay.
It was Mike's motion, Joe's second. In favor were Mike, Joe, and Dan. Against?
Andres and Marie.
Right.
Okay. Got it.
Okay. All right, we have about 8 minutes, so can we tackle Glendevere's?
Someone here from London?
Oh, yeah, whole front row.
Oh, my goodness, lovely. Okay, I just have a question or two, okay?
Sure.
Do you know how much dirt tonnage is gonna be removed from there?
It's 30,000 cubic yards.
Okay, and how,
That's about 3,000 truckloads.
3,000 truckloads? So I guess my response to that is, at 3,000 truckloads, can you answer me a question of how the planning board determined that it was no environmental impact? Since we always, on our sheets, on the stuff that we get, there's always a question on environmental impact, am I correct? So I have to determine that.
Not on this one, you don't, because in this application, although it was an unlisted action, this board consented to the planning board acting as lead agency on a coordinated review. So that means that they handled all of the seeker, and then I believe they issued a negative declaration. They also...
Yeah, but don't I have a responsibility as a member of this board to do the same thing?
You do not. Not when it's a coordinated review that is then handled by the lead agency. If this, unlisted actions don't always need to be coordinated, and often they're not, and then in that case, when they're not coordinated, then each board has to make its own determination of significance. But this was because I think that this board knew that there was going to be so much dirt removed, they allowed the planning board to handle that as part of the review, because they also were going to review, as well as site plan, they also reviewed the EPOD permit.
Okay, but I still can't understand, I mean, how it becomes a neg debt when it's 3,000 truckloads of dirt being moved.
So,
I mean, they didn't even look into it.
So here's what I suggest.
Yeah.
Perhaps, because it's been a while, you haven't been here since when we've been talking about this in adjourn. If you would like to take the opportunity to go back and watch the tapes, or watch the minutes, or give the applicant time to submit something on that issue, then what I'd suggest you do is make a motion to table for that purpose.
Then I'll make a motion to table.
Can I just say a few words since I'm here?
Of course.
Regardless of how you proceed. So I did watch all the videos because I was not here at the original meeting on this project. So I did watch all the videos. I went through the planning board record. There is a planning board decision. There was, as Pete said, there was a coordinated environmental review, which does include this board and every other agency that's an involved agency. I did, hopefully you had a chance, I just want to make sure you had a chance to see the submissions that I sent in. This board just has a very limited scope of review and authority over the project, specifically limited to the expansion of the pre-existing non-conforming use. Your code has a specific provision that addresses that, so I did address that in writing, and I think we've met the legal standard that's applicable to the decision that you have. And the issues regarding the EPOD and environmental issues have essentially been decided already. And while I respectfully understand that you have not been here and want to take a look at that, I just need to point that out, that there have been findings of fact made to support those determinations. And, I think the record really covers what needs to be covered. I certainly understand if you want to table that, but just to make myself clear, I think we've addressed all the legal requirements, and I think that this project should be approved for that reason.
Might I just add a comment about the volume of earth? I think that many of you will recall that there was a large volume of earth that was removed from just east of the Basil's restaurant on Empire Boulevard. At one point there was a very tall knot that had a power pole on top of it, and in order to be able to expand the commercial operation of Basil's and then the apartment complex project that's further up the hill, that piece of earth was moved. That was significantly more yards than we're talking about here. It's anticipated that this process could take 2 construction seasons, and the old Brown Croft Boulevard was the principal highway before they built the 4-lane section further to the south. The bridge that's on that piece of road has been inspected and is inspected, and that road was designed for heavy truck traffic. It carried all the truck traffic before the construction of the expressway. It breaks down to like 60 trucks a week for 50 weeks. That could be 1 day's worth of trucking, or it could be 5 trucks a day for the 5 days, or whatever. It sounds like a big number, but we moved thousands of cubic yards of material. They put. I would guess it was 10 times as much as that in the inner loop last summer downtown, when they eliminated the inner loop and brought it back to a surface street.
And I agree with you, Bob. The only thing is I would like to table it. Just at what you said right now, you're talking about a 1 or 2 year project, right? So would 1 more month, in order for me to make my decision, because it was a 2-2 vote, make that much difference in a project?
I'm not trying to talk you out of the decision to table or not to table. I was just trying to give you a little reference point for what that volume of fill is.
Yeah, no, I understand. Believe me. I'm construction my whole life, so that's why I asked you, how much was it? What volume, how many truckloads? You make the decision. So
Okay,
I still make my motion to table it.
all right. You make a motion to table, and I will second that. By the way, let me ask the applicant something. Have you been, all documents, and I think it's mostly emails, that have come in from the beginning of this, do you know that you have all of them? Because there are issues that go beyond the dirt and the parking and, all noise and all that. And I just want to make sure you have them all. I know especially
I don't
you
know,
because
I
you...
have asked
should-
for stuff from, I don't know if I have them all. If there's something I don't
You
have,
just
I wouldn't
you
know.
should check, because I think you'll want to see them.
I
That's
think
all.
Andy gave you what came in the last, since you became involved, I think he's given.
Everything from zoning, varying the zoning.
Well, that's what I mean from this point. Just want to make sure you have it.
So, yeah, I think there was one, I saw in the video that there was one email that was handed to the applicant when they were first here, and that I think was in the packet, because that was from 2017, and there were a few more recent ones.
Yes.
So I don't know. I thought I covered pretty much everything, but maybe I missed, maybe there's more that,
I think we gave everything.
Okay.
Okay.
If you need any additional information addressing any issues,
No,
we're happy to provide
again,
it.
just wanted to make sure you had it in case you wanted to respond to something.
We did appear before this board on the 15th of February in
What year?
17. It was about a year ago. And there was multiple hearings before other boards subsequent to that, the planning board and before the town.
Which tells me, Bob, what a serious issue this is and the appropriate amount of time that all of those boards and committees have put into it.
And
No decision like this should be rushed.
It's also an indication that the public has had many opportunities to input.
Right. Fair enough. Okay, we have a motion to table. I have seconded it. Any further comment? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Nay. Aye.
All right, so a similar vote.
I'm a nay, sorry, I'm with Andres.
Christine, we have Joe's vote to table. I seconded it. Those in favor were Mike, Joe, and Dan. Andres and Maria opposed. Okay? Very good.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And I think do we have one more or no?
No,
We
yeah.
have Empire, which as far as I know, have received no materials on. That was the one with the flag signs, the
Medical.
additional, yeah.
Yep.
Oh, you're here on that? Okay. Come on up. Gee, Mike, all three have tabled.
Yeah. Just call me Mr.
Indecisive.
Yeah.
Mr. Need More Info, okay. Hello, folks. So, we tabled it to allow you an opportunity to present, or maybe answer some questions that we had, alternatives, and we wanted to make sure you had a fair opportunity to do that, so.
Sure. My name is Jean Calalori. I'm with Rochester Regional Health. The last meeting, there was a representative from ID Signs, which is the sign company that we had contracted with to establish the signage, the window clings, and the flutter flags along the street.
Right.
So I wasn't at the last meeting. But in the meantime, he came back, he expressed some concerns that were shared at the table here. We reevaluated our initial plan and have decided that we would like to remove the request for the flutter signs along the street, take those off the table. However, we would like to proceed with the window clings that would be on the front of the building.
There's some images here.
And while these are going around, can somebody refresh my memory about the length of time that we wanted these signs up?
So the intent of the sign is first to allow people to understand of the type of services that are now available in that building.
Okay.
At the time that it was, back in the spring of 2016, Rochester Regional Health put a significant investment into the building and expanded the types of services and the number of services that are available there. Imaging, specifically imaging and orthopedics, are brand new to that community, something new that is being offered to the residents. So we want to let them know of what services are in that building, and also the fact that all of the practices there are accepting new patients, which is often a very difficult thing for people to identify.
Okay.
Here's a question I had.
Well, I don't know that I got an answer to mine, I'm sorry.
Go on.
So the length of time that you would like these signs to be up?
So the intent is, as long as they are accepting new patients, we would like the signs to be there. As soon as the practices are full, the signs come down.
Oh. Can you be a little more definitive than that? I mean, could that be 5 years, 10 years, 6 months? I mean, you hope it's 6 months, but
We
that's...
hope it's 6 months, and we absolutely would take them down, because we don't want people thinking we're taking new patients and we're not, because then that just disappoints them.
Right. Okay.
Well, I
Well,
have a question, but then I have a question.
Yeah.
Okay.
My question is, don't most of the services that you provide, wouldn't they be initiated by referrals? Like, nobody's gonna go by an orthopedic building and go, gee, I think I'll stop in and see if I can get my leg
Toes
fixed.
fixed,
Yeah.
That's right.
Well, and
Same
it's,
thing with internal medicine, same thing with imaging laboratories.
and that's true, although people are often now able to choose where they go to receive services, so they don't necessarily have to have referrals. But as
That's true.
I drove down the street just this afternoon, just to make sure I was completely aware of the surrounding area, and in buildings immediately surrounding the one that we are in, there's a dental office, an eye care office, a physical therapy office, and a dialysis office in various buildings. So there are quite a few medical services right in that immediate area. So to be able to help the residents to identify which building they need to go to would be a service for them.
So a couple questions. About how long does it take for a practice to fill up?
That
On
is a
average.
wonderful question, and I don't have the answer to that.
Really?
I don't know. No.
Okay. And then what other, I mean, when I am looking for a doctor, I'm always online or something like that, looking at who's accepting new patients. So what other avenues do people have besides these signs? I would think they could be online or getting it from their own doctor or their insurance company. These are people accepting patients.
So I can only speak for Rochester Regional Health. We do have on our website, you're able to go on to it's called Find a Doc, which
Right.
would tell people, who is accepting, which doctor is available and who is accepting, but that means going to the website to do that.
I mean, I guess I'm thinking primary care would fill up really quickly. Okay.
I've got just a suggestion. I mean, I know from last meeting, we said it was very redundant to have the flag signs out. Those seem to be gone. I don't have a problem saying, yes, let's go with something if we say 1 year and they come back. And if prior to their 1 year, if it's only 50% occupancy, maybe we consider extending it.
You
At least that's the way
get
I would
that
look at it.
suggestion?
Since we don't have a
What I'm just
timeframe.
suggesting is the board sets a time frame, and then if you feel you need more time, come in and ask for an extension. At that point, I know I would be interested in how close are you to
Right.
filling. Just honestly, like the first table application that was talking about putting up signs advertising, now rental, we were interested in how are you doing? In other words, how much do you really need the signs?
Yeah, I think that's
I
reasonable.
would be more supportive of a shorter time.
Oh, yeah.
6 months, okay, yeah, I just picked the
Yeah,
time.
yes,
Just
exactly.
give an
Because
example.
I thought, I had the same idea, 6 months.
The signs are pretty significant.
This would be a
Size.
banner or a sign?
It's a window
This is on the
frame, so
window.
it actually adheres to the window itself.
And by the way, I was a little surprised last time to learn that they could not go on the inside. Is that, okay. Somebody should invent better indoor signs.
They can.
So how big would this sign be?
They wouldn't be signed.
They just don't
Same
look
one,
as good.
same one you had in the initial
Larry deal.
application?
My guess
This is Michael O'Connell from ID Signs.
Right there.
Okay.
And then I don't know if you can see from the picture, but that gives the rendering. We have the flag removed from the rendering.
Can you tell me what that is? You can't, it's blurry.
That's on the window, or?
Yeah.
Can you read the dimensions for me?
Is that the window?
We're older. It's hard to
No, you
read.
still can't. No,
Well, I may be able
Which one are you looking for?
I'll bring up my laptop and come.
Just the dimensions of the big sign.
The big sign,
You can see it there?
7'6" tall by 38 feet, 9.5 inches.
Take the whole front,
It's the window, yeah.
the window. Front row.
You were able to get that measurement?
It is the same as what was in the previous
It's the same
applicant,
thing,
yeah, or
yes.
application, yeah.
Yes, 38, 9.5, yep.
38 by 7.
7'6".
And refresh my, there's no monument sign out here?
No,
There
there's posted panels.
there is a monument sign out by the street, but it doesn't list any of the specific.
What is it,
his
does it have the address,
Yes.
2000 or whatever the address is?
Yes, Rochester Regional Health, and then the address.
2,000. That's not shown obviously on this picture.
No, it was installed since that picture was taken.
Whatever the address is, I'm not sure. Okay.
And Andy, what are they entitled to as far as building mounted signage?
2 square feet for each lineal foot of frontage.
And that would be this entire span?
Assuming the sign is for all the businesses in the building, yeah.
But, so that'd be at a minimum, right?
What's that?
That's why you say that, assuming it's for all the businesses. That would be, all of them totaled was the number you'd be looking for.
Yeah, if it's all the businesses in the building, then yeah, we would take the full.
So is that the case? Are all these sections all part of this complex?
I can't see whether the buildings are attached or not.
They look like it.
Sorry, thank you very much. Yes, our services fill that entire building.
Okay. Then I'm going to make an official motion to allow that signage to exist for 6 months. And then they'd have to come back if they needed more than that.
I'll second.
Yeah.
Were you second? And,
Nobody has yet.
oh,
Yeah,
No, Marie did.
Marie did. Okay. So we have a motion to approve the application for a period of 6 months. The modified application, I
modified,
should
yeah.
say, yes. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So that was unanimous. Wow.
So just so that I
Actually, it's 6
understand, then in
months.
6 months, either the signs come down or we come back and...
And don't wait 6 months, because as you just heard, there is a notice issue, so probably come in after about 4.5 months, or at least call.
Or if it's filled, let us know.
Well,
We
yeah.
hope it fills in 2 weeks.
We will need to issue a signed permit for it as well.
What's that?
We will need to issue the signed permit.
Right, and that was actually one of the 2 questions that I had, is that, so just to go online, get that same permit that I filled out before, and I just I do it the same exact way, but I'm just taking the flags out.
Sure.
Okay, and then I submit it, I get the permit, and then is it 6 months from the time that they're installed? Because it will take, there's a little bit of time to print up.
Yes.
Somebody go over with a crane. and-
You're going to get a full 6 months, if everybody's okay with that.
Yep.
All right, so that's been approved. Okay, thanks. Yeah, we already did. Any really quick, anything on tonight's for clarification? You guys are all set.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you all very much.
I want to talk about the square footage on application number 1.
Yes.
Has that changed with these, yeah.
Yeah, I believe...
Well, which one are we going to use? I think we know we have 2 numbers. This board should use the 4,000 square foot or whatever it is.
I
Meaning,
determined that to be the net
right.
office.
So the variance request is for 2 spots.
Well, I think that's changed.
Okay.
You don't think that they don't want 30 spaces anymore?
Oh, you mean the parking, I'm sorry, the parking spaces. Yes, 30 was the Or 32.
They requested 30,
So-
according to his measurements, they would need 32, not some larger number. 38 might not even be the
Okay.
right number on their
Okay.
original application, so it's two space variance.
All right, anything else on, again, quickly on tonight's?
Where's, well, like, I'll ask in hearing, it's okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
All right, everybody okay to go right up?
No problem.
First of all, thank you for your patience tonight. We're starting late because we had a lot of matters to consider in our work session, a lot of tabled matters. In any event, welcome to a regularly scheduled meeting of the Penfield Zoning Board of Appeals. Tonight's meeting is going to take place in two parts. The first part will be our public hearings. We'll ask the applicant to come up to that podium there, give us name and address, and then explain to the board members why the relief being requested should be granted. After the applicant is done with the presentation, we'll invite anyone in the audience to come up and do the same thing, come to that podium, give us name and address, and then comment on the application. Once the public hearings are adjourned, we'll take a brief recess, and we will reconvene in the back of the room to deliberate on tonight's application and any other business the board may have. Members of the public are welcome both at the public hearings and the deliberations, but typically deliberations are times reserved for communication amongst board members with staff, and sometimes with council. Tonight's agenda is medium length, I would say, and as I've stated, you're welcome to stay. If for whatever reason you cannot or wish not to, you can certainly call tomorrow the zoning department and find out what action the board took on any particular item. Every month I like to point out, as do my fellow board members, that we feel that the town does a very good job of informing neighbors that certain applications in their neighborhood are going to be heard. The town does this so that neighbors are more fully informed of their right to come in and speak about it. And the town does this in many different ways, sending postcards, letters if you live nearby, making applicants put up signs on the property so people know that, posting the agenda on the website, posting on the bulletin board here. As I said, we think it's a process that works well. Having said that, I'd ask everyone to rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, very good. Andy, may we have application number 1, please?
Pelletier and Johnson, PLLC, 441 Pembroke Drive, Suite 112, Penfield, New York, 14526. Request area variances to allow less parking than required under Section 250-7.7-D of the code, a building with less front setback than required under Section 250-5.5-D3 of the code, and less side setback than required under Section 250-5.5-D3 of the code, and a taller building than permitted under Section 250-5.5-D4 of the code at 2316 Fairport 9 Mile Point Road. The property is owned by 2316 9 Mile Point LLC and Zone BNR, SBL number 140.0-2-62. This is application number 18Z-0020.
Good evening, folks. My name is Tim Pelletier. I am an attorney, currently run my practice in the Penn Fair Office Park on Pembroke Drive near 250 and 441. Just a quick explanation of my practice. My wife and I are the attorneys in the office. We have about 6 women working with us, most of them part-time. Our practice is trust and estates, elder law. We've been there about 8 years. Before that, we previously practiced at a law firm downtown. I was there for about 10 years downtown. When I started my own practice, I wanted to be somewhere on the east side and found my space at the Penn Fair Office Park. Now we're looking to become more permanent, and we'd like to own a place, and so this is the focus of our endeavor. We purchased the lot at 2316 9 Mile Point Road. We initially came to the planning board with a proposal for a building that was about 5,000, had a 5,000 square foot footprint, about 10,000 square feet of office space. Our intent was to use half and rent half. After that first attempt with the planning board, we were led to believe that was too big for the lot. And so we went back and redesigned our building. And so we came up with, instead of a 5,000 square foot footprint, a 3,600 footprint, square feet footprint. So we shrunk the building by almost 30%, trying to fit the building into that lot. It's about 3/4 of an acre. We understand that there are some limitations to the lot, some of it because of the E-pod, the stream in the back, the topography of it, but we made some significant changes to our plan to try to fit into the lot. We ended up with about 55% impervious coverage based on the parking lot and the building, so I think that's less than what the code requires, trying to make that building fit. As far as the front setback, our initial application to the planning board asked for 25 feet from the road, trying to make that building bigger and keep it away from the stream, the E-pod in the back. The planning board came back and said that was too close, and so now our proposal is 40 feet from the road, looking for a variance for that. Actually, I think that we have a front stoop and entryway. The engineer can speak a little bit more intelligently about the design than I can, but an entryway that is going to be 32 feet from the road. But we considered eliminating that to make the front of the building the variance request so that we would be 40 feet from the road. We decided that we preferred the appearance as it relates to the residential neighborhood to have that covered entryway in the front. So actually that entryway is 32 feet from the road. The main building is 40 feet. So that is one of our variance requests. Another one is the side setback. I understand the code requires 20 feet. We're asking for 10 feet on the south side. Part of that is because of the topography. We have, I think, 30 feet on the north side of the building to allow for a retaining wall, the driveway, and the appropriate space. We considered various options to move that building farther north to minimize that setback on the south side. Nothing seemed to work. We considered flipping the driveway to the south side so we can minimize those setbacks. That seemed to have a greater adverse effect on the neighbor to the south having the driveway, so we left it to the north. We considered shrinking the building even further. It just doesn't allow what we're trying to accomplish, and so we tried, and that's what we ended up with. And so we're asking for that 10-foot variance from the south side setback. Next is the height. There's a variance request for the height of the building. It's a walkout from the front of the building, from the west of the building, from 250. It will appear as 2 stories. I don't know the exact height there, but I understand the building has some measurement from the walkout component, and that's because of the topography of it. Our intent is to have a walk-in in the ground level in the back from the parking lot, and then go up to what are 2 stories above ground. And so when you factor that in, it appears that we have a 42-foot building height, and I understand code requires 40. So we're asking for a 2-foot variance as it relates to the height. Again, we considered things like last week we were in front of the planning board. We considered changing the pitch of the roof, but even the planning board suggested that leaving it where it is makes it more in line with the appearance of the neighborhood and the residential properties. We considered a flat roof, which obviously doesn't fit at all in with the residential neighborhood surrounding. So that's where we are, is a 2-foot variance request. And then the last one is the parking. I understand that based on the square footage, the code would require 32 spaces. We're at 30 spaces. That's mostly because of the nature of the property. We have 3/4 of an acre, but we can't push back any farther because of the E-pod. We considered, is there any way we can squeeze an extra 2 spaces into that E-pod area, or the creek's at an angle, so where it's not exactly in the E-pod? That just didn't seem to be feasible. We considered putting parking on the side. That's not feasible because of the 100-foot width of the properties. some of the requirements. And so where we are is we have 30 spaces, and I know the code requires 32. I will mention that because of our particular area of practice, a couple things. We practice a lot in the elder law estates area. We do a lot of work outside the office. This is not going to be a high-traffic type of business. There are frequent meetings outside the office, things that the paralegals do, that the attorneys do, that is some coming and going, and so very infrequently do we have everybody there at the same time. Very infrequently do we have more than one meeting at the same time. And so based on our particular usage, if we're going to occupy half of the building, if we have 15 of the 30 spaces, I think that's more than enough. Trying to review our usage in the past few weeks, I can struggle to find a time when we had even 10 spaces used at our current location. And so I think that's perfectly reasonable as it relates to how we use the property. I know we're planning on renting out part of the property. I would like to have somebody that is a comparable type of business, whether that's an insurance agent or we work with geriatric care managers who don't do, I think, any work in their office. But I have a potential renter, an insurance agent. There's 3 gentlemen. I asked them what space they would use. If they were at 1,800 square feet, looking for maybe 7 spaces, that all fits within the 30 spaces that we've laid out and that we're requesting. And so I think based on our usage, based on our intent, I think 30 spaces is reasonable, but we still do need that 2-space variance. So those are the 4 I think that we need. The front setback at 40 feet for the main building, 32 feet if you count the stoop, 10 feet for the side, 42 feet for the roof, and the extra 2 spaces for the parking variance. The engineer is here. I suppose that he can answer any technical questions, but if anybody has any questions for me about my practice or anything in particular?
So my first question would be, what do you expect your general hours to be?
So we'll operate in a traditional business format, 9 to 5. There's very little that we do outside of normal hours.
Okay.
We do a lot of traveling to people's houses too, and so if I have a client that needs to meet at 7, 8 o'clock at night, there's a lot of that I do in their houses, and so that won't involve the property.
Okay, and then you had a walkout basement, right? And
That's correct.
what would be there? That's your main entrance, isn't it?
Yeah, that's our main entrance, and so we talked about the possibility of having conference rooms downstairs, but if you incorporate the conference rooms downstairs, now you're adding on to the 7,200 square feet, so we have 3,600 square feet in the top that we would use, 3,600 square feet in the middle that we would hope to rent. I'd like to use that basement for conference rooms, but if you incorporate all that together, that doesn't work. The square footage is too much for the parking. I can't ask for that kind of deviation from the parking requirements. And so I think at this point, we're contemplating using the top 2 floors. The basement is for mechanicals, and it remains empty.
I appreciate the efforts that you made to reduce the size of the building. I watched both sketch plan and the preliminary planning board sessions. Do you feel like 60 by 60 is the smallest you could go? Do you think you could go smaller and eliminate the need for a couple of these variances?
You know, we talked about that, and I had the architect draw a plan that was more narrow on the lot, 55 feet. That was even a stretch to ask for that. And so we did that, and it so significantly changed the layout of the offices and the break room, the bathrooms. It just wasn't feasible. And so we went back and said, we have to stay at 60 and asked for the variance, but we tried. And again, that was when we said, okay, we can't shrink the building. We want to stay at 60. Can we move it north? Can we pick up a couple of feet somewhere? The driveway, can we shrink the driveway? Any of those things. And so we ended up staying at 60.
My question, maybe it's maybe for Andy, where is the planning board at? I know they tabled it. Are there studies still out? What's going on with it?
Do you want me to?
Go ahead.
Doesn't matter, I'm asking both of you, sorry.
I'm sure he knows more than me. What I will tell you, what I know is that last week at the planning board meeting, it was, I followed up the larger Morgan development that's intended for up 250, and so I didn't come to the podium until 10:30 at night, and so there was no discussion about my project. I think that they, from what I've heard, is that they still need to have some discussions, so they don't have a conclusion yet. But I think that I'm fairly optimistic that they're on board. But I mean, that's, now he can tell you
Yeah,
more.
my understanding is the planning board is not opposed to any of the requested variances.
Okay. I'll stop it right now for now.
Do you know, you want to say something before? It's up to you. Yeah, the front setback, what's the width of the, let's call it the porch area, whatever, approximate?
I'll defer, I don't know that. And our architect unfortunately couldn't be here.
And I'm going to ask the question about what's the width of the building. I'm just looking to see.
So the building is 60 feet wide on a
Right.
100-foot lot.
Yeah, I got that, but now.
And then I think that the front entryway is,
20? Look,
I don't
I
think
don't know
it's
if
that-
this is the scale, but.
I don't think it's that big.
It says you can't scale off of it, but it scales within itself. I need to say that up.
No, it's okay. All I'm getting at is certainly not the entire building is 32 feet from the road, just
No.
15 feet of it, 20 feet of it, whatever the point. Yeah. Okay.
20 feet, they say it's only enough to present some aesthetics to the building, to make it fit in with the right character.
Okay. And I know that we received either some emails or letters or something that we just got tonight. One was from a neighbor concerned about the size, the height, the parking variance, although I don't know that the neighbor knew that the parking variance has changed dramatically. But I just want to make sure that you saw that. No. Okay. Somebody, maybe you could take a look at it, because I think you should address that email. And I don't know if there's any more either. Any other questions from the board while they're absorbing this?
For the variance for the height, does that go to the peak of the gable off the front, that highest point? Is that what it's measured off of?
Town code measures building height to the highest point,
Okay.
so yes.
I guess part of me looks at this design saying, well, you kind of have a extended height on a roof for the second story. Is there a reason internally why that's happening, or it's just aesthetics on the outside? Does that gain you more lofted space in the inside? And
Again, for the record, I'm Eric Schaff, Marathon Engineering. The architect was not able to be here. The biggest reason for the height variance is the topography of the site. And if you look at the elevations we provided, you'll see that from Route 250, it appears to be more of a two-story building. However, from the parking lot, looking back this way, there's a tremendous grade change. That's where you have a full walkout basement. So basically, you've got a two-story building and a three-story building, and it turns into the height variance is why it's required because of that. It's not because of trying to design a particular attic space or whatever. It's more a matter of, you've got the back, you've got the front, how do you make it look good? And one of the planning board members even mentioned last week, although it was very late, that, yeah, you could shrink it, change the pitch of the roof, and maybe lose most of that 2-foot variance, but then that would dramatically impact this aesthetics and appearance of the building. And we're fitting into the neighborhood, and part of the design was to make the commercial building fit in as best as you can.
So I guess my concern, like, it's, you keep mentioning that there's residences around that, and you're going to be fairly close to them if we grant that variance.
The 10 feet on the one side, yes. The properties were part of an area that was rezoned to business. And that is the intent part of the comprehensive plan and that type of thing. And we've done our best to make this a business that integrates with the neighborhood. But you aren't ever going to have a purely residential character come out of the business. We have proposed some extensive landscaping there to mitigate it.
as we said, we looked at putting the driveway on that side, but then you've got the cars going up and down closer to that house. So we flipped that design this way. Let me just take an opportunity to hit a couple of points that Tim did not mention. Some of the other things about the site. One of the other things that hurts us, quote unquote, is there's a sanitary sewer easement, 20 foot wide to the town of Penfield that runs through the property, basically through the middle of the property. So that, again, that also limits where you can put the building and so on. And then, as Tim mentioned, there's the creek with an E-pod, so we didn't want to encroach on that any more than was necessary. We are putting in a sidewalk connection, and again, trying to make that building blend in as best we can. In terms of the parking spaces, Tim pointed out that he has staff that works part-time. One of the things that's a key point is they work opposite days. Now, each of his staff has an office, okay, in the floor plan, because that's the nature of his operation and how it works. But the person, and I don't know, lady man, the staff member that's there Mondays and Wednesdays, okay, is not there when the staff person that's there Tuesdays and Thursdays. So calculation of net square footage and office space used and all those things, yes, it's a space, but the pure nature of the operation, they aren't going to both need a parking space. They aren't there. So that also is a further argument that I wanted to make sure the board understood in support of that. The front wall setback was talked about, but the front wall is actually at 40 feet. Okay, and it is just that covered porch. Again, which if you look at the elevations, helps make the building blend in. There was even talk, and I'm getting into architectural, which is dangerous, of eliminating the lower portions of the columns. That way then the setback would only be, you know, to the foundation, but that just doesn't look as good. Okay, again, the key is the building itself is 40 feet, and that's what people are going to notice from Route 250. On the side setback, the lot, although we draw a nice straight line here, it is not perpendicular to Route 250. So one of the things is that irregularity, the setback at the eastern end of the building is back to 12.5 feet versus 10. And again, we just can't shift the building this way anymore because of the sanitary sewer and the parking and those type of things.
Now, you may have already addressed this and I just missed it, but why can't the building go further north to reduce the side set or the south setback?
There is a driveway width here.
Okay.
There's some retaining walls, and in order to construct that and not have that right on that property line. Now, one of the other elements that, just a history of the property, and Tim can fill in the details, he did approach this neighbor to the north about buying or getting an easement because the longer-term plan would make sense for a access into all these parcels to be more aligned with New Wickham Drive. That property owner, as his right, was not interested. But that also was explored, which would then allowed us to shift it up. But we couldn't. We have to have a driveway and that setback.
I guess I should have said, can you flip-flop it so the driveway's on the south?
If we do that, okay, generally speaking, from a planning perspective, a driveway with activity and headlights and so on is more intrusive to a residence
Than the side of the building.
than having a static side of the building with landscaping.
With landscaping, okay, fair enough.
So we did consider that, and no. And those are the extra points I just wanted to make, but we'd be happy to continue and answer questions.
No, so, I mean, I guess I'm just sort of struggling with, I mean, I hear all of what you're saying about how you've really tried to make this fit in with the community, et cetera, et cetera. I guess I'm struggling with whether or not this is just too big a project for this specific lot. That's all. That's where I'm at.
Any other questions? No.
Looks like lighting in the back parking lot, is that correct? In the
There is
center?
one light here.
Is that
It's a dual head,
that a-
it will be shielded.
All night?
No,
Runs?
it's intended for safety and security. Certainly in the summertime, it probably wouldn't be on at all. But in the depths of December and February,
or even middle of April, I think, according to, I saw snow today. It gets dark right around that 5 o'clock time, and so, yes, that's why it'd be there, but it's not on all night.
Okay, so when the business is closed, it would be off?
Right. I mean,
Anyone in the audience care to speak about this application? Come on up.
My name's Paul Monachino. My mother lives at 2324 Fairport Webster Road, which is the property to the south. I expressed my views at the planning board the first time it came around and appreciate the efforts that were made to reduce the footprint of the building and the other things that have been done. But I still have a couple issues. One probably doesn't really reflect the types of things that you need to be dealing with, but I think this entire idea of having mixed zoning on this road prior to changes to the road itself is a disaster waiting to happen. When Wegmans and other businesses were put up at the top of the hill, a turning lane was created. At the other end, where the golf course and the residences were built, a turning lane was created. When Windsor Square and Wickham Square and all the other residences back there have the only entrance to Route 250, there is no turning lane, and the people who live there can tell you, and have told you repeatedly, that this is a nightmare. The traffic there is awful. The only reason I mention that is because this will be the first business that will replace a resident, and that even though it's a small business as far as the number of people, it's going to increase traffic, and you start multiplying this as more and more businesses are created along this road, and it's going to get worse and worse without a turning lane. There's a constant, steady stream of traffic, squealing brakes, people trying to avoid one another. It's already a bad situation. And a building of any size will add traffic, but a building of this size is going to add significantly more. That's one thing. Second, the building is very attractive, and I can appreciate that it apparently, from the artist's renditions and the pictures I've seen, it's a very attractive building. However, it's still a square peg in a round hole. If you, and I tried to do this, and it's a poor effort, but I took the scale of that building and put it next to my mother's house. It's a monstrous building when you compare it to a small split level, which is downhill a bit from it, and this is going to be set a bit closer to the road. It does not fit nicely there. Now, if I were to think that businesses were going to start popping up there left and right over the next couple of years, it would be a moot point. But people haven't been exactly pounding down our doors trying to purchase our property to build businesses there. So I suspect this is going to be a standalone business here for some time to come, all by itself. And it will stand out like a sore thumb, a very attractive one, but it does not actually fit in with the buildings around it. I'm sorry, it just does not work that way. The other thing is we are the only people who will be affected by that 10-foot setback, and I appreciate that. 10 feet doesn't seem to be a lot, but this is a very large building, and we're already only 20 feet away, and that's going to bring it that much closer. Now, granted, we have no windows on that side of the house, but that means 15 feet away from our house, there's going to be a very large building looming over us. It's not the end of the world, and it's something that you get used to, but still, we are the only people that will be affected by that. And my concern is if you allow a building to encroach on us that much, does that affect our property value? Or if we were to sell our property for commercial purposes, would that in somehow affect the next owner's ability to do things because of the location of a large structure 10 feet away? Those are basically my concerns.
Can you point to that drawing, ballpark where the southern edge of the house was that was demolished?
Well, it would be like another 10 feet up here.
Okay. All right.
I can't say exactly, I never measured it, but I'm assuming it was the 20 feet.
Okay.
It was pretty close already to start with, but, you know,
Yeah, well,
it was another house.
That's why I'm asking, honestly.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Anybody have any questions, this gentleman? Okay. Anyone else in the audience care to speak about this? You guys have had a chance to see that email? If you want to address that?
Yeah, I will address it. I mean, this gentleman came to the planning board and voiced his
Okay.
objections and just doesn't like a commercial building in that property. He lives, behind our property is the cul-de-sac of Cherry Mead. He lives in the neighborhood on the other side of Cherry Mead and simply says he just doesn't want to see the commercial building there. I mean, the reality is that long before I was involved, the town rezoned these properties south of Jeremiah's on the east side of 250 to a business non-retail zoning classification, and so he just doesn't want the commercial building there. I mean, I think that doesn't, I don't think it particularly relates to my project. He said he doesn't want to look out his house and see a commercial building, but.
Okay.
And again, I would simply point out that not only is there landscaping around this building, but there is landscaping
In the back.
in the back along the screening, which is going to certainly not block, but will help serve as a buffer and so on. There's also a tremendous amount of grade change. These folks are down the hill.
I know there's a huge clump of conifers back there. Are those staying, or is it?
We are only going to put in a small retention. It's not going to hold water all the time. This is a recharge basin.
Okay.
And there will be whatever the trees are, plus we'll add some more.
So those will be staying?
I don't know. I'm not going to guarantee if there's one right in the middle of that. Okay, that one's not going to do. But by and large, they are staying, and we are adding to the landscape buffer that's back there. Not unlike, although it's not going to be precisely like, but if you recall, and have been up behind, for whatever reason, the daycare and the medical office building at the rear of the Jeremiah's Plaza, there's landscaping there, again, buffering from residences that are much closer to those buildings than the distance for any of these.
Thank you.
Okay, any other board questions? Anyone else in the audience? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, folks.
Sam Fantuzzo, 1661 Empire Boulevard, Webster, New York, 14580. Requests an area variance to allow more lot coverage than permitted under section 250-5.6-D2 of the code at 1661 Empire Boulevard. The property is owned by Fantuzzo Family Brands Incorporated and is zoned limited business. SBL number 093.19-1-23. This is application number 18Z-0021.
Good evening. My name is Greg McMahon. I'm with McMahon LaRue Associates. We're here tonight seeking a coverage variance. The code maximum on this property is 65%. We're seeking a variance to a coverage of 68.7. Now, we appeared back in November. We appeared before your board for a determination. And prior to that, we had calculated coverage on this property as part of our planning approval, and we had calculated that coverage at 63.4%. The difference being we had not included the area of the public sidewalk, which is on the property within an easement to the town. So when we calculated our coverage, we did not include that public sidewalk. At the meeting with the board in November on a determination, it was the board's recommendation that we make application and apply for this variance, and that issue would be somehow addressed in the future. But we're here tonight. That's our request. There really are, I mean, this drawing's been around quite some time. There are really no changes. Nothing has changed with regard to the sizes of the structures, changes to anything. But in order to make sure everything is covered on this, we are requesting that coverage variance.
All right, well, my question would be, how did this occur? How did you get to the point where it's not coverage anymore?
We had gone back and forth with town staff there were some construction changes made that varied the site from what was approved. We're going back and forth with the town staff. We went through a number of different scenarios looking at coverage, and it was brought to our attention at that time that we talked to town staff. We told them we hadn't included the area of the sidewalk in our calculation. Town staff didn't have an answer. They said, well, we'd recommend that you go to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a determination on that. And basically, the plan that's before you that was submitted after all of those construction variances is proposing to bring this site back into compliance with the planning board's approval. This plan, prior to making application to the Zoning Board of Appeals, we submitted this plan to the Zach Nersinger, who took it to the planning board to get an opinion from the planning board. This, again, is my understanding that if this site, if these changes were made, would bring this project back into compliance with the planning board approval. And after reviewing that, my comment, or Zach's comment to me was, the planning board was good with the plan, make your variance application to the zoning board.
I guess I'll get to my point.
Yes.
Okay? That is not the plan that we saw originally, and that is not the way it was supposed to be built. And someone eliminated stuff that was on the original blueprint. Maybe Sam should answer this.
I can answer it. There was a human error when they paved the front parking lot and they took a foot off, but the foot, by the length, did eliminate the green space. So we came back and Mr. McMahon, who's been doing this all his life, did the diagram to figure out what the percentages were, and we were still in line with the green space based on what is accepted. So we're coming here now saying, we messed up, the contractor messed up, it was a foot, they put curbs into the ground, 36 inches into the ground, a foot off where they're supposed to. They measured a foot off from one side to the other. They should have started from the driveway side, instead they started from the stop sign side, so they were a foot off. We're coming back and saying there's enough green space now to make this, to fit what it needs to be.
But it's not true, right? I mean, now you're here for a variance from the green space.
We're here for a variance because of the interpretation of the whole sidewalk coverage that, I guess, according to Mr. McMahon and his company, usually gets approved that way. So we're here asking for a variance on that.
Yeah, but now you know that the planning board's calculation is what counts, or Penfield's calculation is what counts. It's not whoever else you had calculated, am I correct? So now you're out of green space.
I'm not sure about that.
So are you here to debate whether the planning board is wrong, or that you want a variance?
No, I'm.
When the original plan was approved by the planning board, we presented a calculation that showed that we were below the 65% green space. That calculation had been based on the fact that we didn't include the sidewalk. So in our mind, we had less than 65%. Then going through, subsequent to that, going through the issues with the town that were a result of some changes that the contractor made on site, we were trying to justify various areas of green space and pavement, and we discussed this with the town staff, and we made it known to them that we had not included the sidewalk in our original calculations. So, I mean, the plan is basically, what we're showing is back, for example, this area that we're now showing as lawn, the contractor paved it. That was not built correctly. We realized that, Sam realized that, that is going to be torn out and brought back to green space.
Are you referring to the front of the building to Empire Boulevard? That's yes. Where the green space was, right?
Yes, and it's
okay.
Right now it's paved. That was paved all the way across.
I know that.
And it shouldn't have been paved, and that's why it's being brought back to green space.
So you're going to dig up in front of the building,
And put grass back in, yes.
and you can't put enough grass to come to the point where you have the proper lot coverage?
Not in the front of the building, no. No.
Well, you have parking spaces now that you can drive around the front of the building, am I correct?
Well, we could eliminate parking places and put grass back in and come up with the green space, but then we'd be back in requesting a parking variance. So, I mean, it was,
Are you saying that right now, the parking spaces that you're talking about are just right for the building? In other words, if you need 20 parking spaces, you now have 20 parking spaces, or do you have more than that?
let me just, give me a minute. Parking places provided, total parking places provided are 13. Total required parking places were 10.
Okay, so you got more parking spaces than you need.
We're going to eliminate them by putting grass back in the front.
But
The concern was...
my point was, can you put enough grass in the front to get rid of this variance? You know, you're digging something up and you're putting grass in there.
Right.
Okay, but yet you want a variance for the grass. Why don't you just, if you're 3 parking spaces over, and I was there today, you have 6 parking spaces in the front, correct? In the front of the building.
Well, no, we have one parking, if you're looking, all of the parking places occur on Rossman Drive.
No, there's 6 in the front of the building right now,
There are not 6 in front of
Well,
it.
when you say the front, you mean Empire Boulevard?
towards Empire Boulevard. I was just there, you have cones in them. Am I correct, Sam?
Those 2 are coming out.
Okay.
The ones in front of the house itself.
Okay,
Then on the side, because they wanted us to use the loop around for safety reasons,
okay,
those 2 spots that you saw, that one is handicapped and there's a sign on the brand-new fence, that brand-new fence is coming down. We're getting rid of that pavement so we can now go around the house as an exit with the town requested in the last time we were here. So
Correct.
those are not parking spots.
okay,
be
but we're
striped.
talking about the 4 parking spots in front of the building.
Yes, those are gone.
Gone.
Okay, and now that's 4 parking spaces, a car length this way and a car length this way. And you're telling me that if you're gonna dig it up to begin with, right, that you can't put enough grass in there to make sure that you don't need this variance?
No, because then we'll be below the parking needed. If we get rid of we could get rid of the 2 spots in front of the house and the spot closer to the side of the house, but then we have to leave a handicap spot near the side door, the back door, and we have to leave room for people to go around the house, which was
No,
requested.
I understand what you're saying, around the back of the
Yeah, so
house where your
There are
apartment's gonna be.
There are parking places striped right now that aren't intended to be parking places.
Which ones?
The ones in front of the building and the parking places that occur on that would be the west side of the building.
Okay,
In front of the new fence.
Okay.
Those aren't parking spots, and that's a driveway now.
okay, so, but you're gonna leave 2 in the front of the building?
No, none in front of
None in front of the building?
There will be one parking place on the west side of the building that'll be the handicap accessible parking place, which is the closest spot to the accessible entrance to the building. That's the only parking place. All the other parking places are over here on, pulled in off of Rossman Drive.
So, I'm just trying to get it clear in my mind, because we're talking percentage. In
Yeah.
the front of the building, you have 4 parking spaces right now, striped. Whether you use them or not, they're striped. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay. You're going to leave one of those?
No.
Okay.
The 2 in the front are going to be grass. The 2 on the side, they become one handicap that's on the side. And
Okay.
the handicap that's there now becomes a driveway to the back lot.
So if you're, again, I go back to my point. You just said all 4 parking spots in the front towards Empire Boulevard are now gone.
But not grass.
Right. They're going to be gone. Am I
Right.
correct?
Right.
And I'm saying to you, if you eliminate all 4 of those spots, you can't put enough grass in there to make sure this eliminates this percentage problem?
no, we can't get below 65%. I mean, could I pick up a few tenths, 0.5%? I mean, filling in a little spot here, filling in a little spot there, but I'm not going to get to 65%, no.
How much square footage do you need to get to 65%?
I can't tell you right now. I mean, I'd have to get out and figure the lot area and figure what, I just didn't come with those numbers.
See, my problem is, if you're taking those 4 spots from in front of the building, I just find it hard to believe that you can't put enough grass in there to eliminate this. I mean, I just can't believe it. I mean, again, you're talking about 4 full cars, plus some space in between them, okay, and a distance from the front to almost Empire Boulevard. And you're telling me that won't bring you up 3%?
Well, we've gone over this a bunch of times, and no, it won't. It won't bring us up. We've tried everything.
I mean, we're basically, we've prepared this plan. We're trying to correct some of the construction problems. We come up with 68.7% of coverage, and that's the variance we're requesting.
Okay.
All right, so I'm going to ask some questions at the risk of being redundant. As the site exists right now, could you succinctly describe what you're going to do to it to create green space which does not exist today? Yes. Right now as it exists, you could drive in this entrance and you could drive right through the front and out onto Rossman. That's paved from the front porch right out to this curb line. There's actually curb in here. So that area is going to be removed. The asphalt's going to be removed, and it's going to be planted. That's going to be turned into green space in the front. So it's brought back so that you drive in this entrance to get to the garage in the rear, and you can exit out Rossman. People that are coming, other than the one handicap spot, any people that are coming here for the business are coming down Rossman and parking on Rossman. There would be no longer a cut through, which there exists right now because of the way that was paved. Okay. And can you give me a ballpark figure as to what those changes are going to cost? Ballpark.
$8,000 right now.
Okay.
That's without trying to move the curbs, which was requested in the past. And the other issue here, if I could jump in, is there's steps here and there's steps here. So yeah, if we came up past the steps right here, we probably would meet what you're looking for. But now we're going to bury the steps, the entrance. And if we did it over here, we would bury the steps. So we stopped the green space at the cement pad, letting people walk up to the stairs, this brand new stairway here in this porch. So, I mean, could we cheat and put a little more grass along the house here and put some shrubs if this handicap spot doesn't interfere with whatever space you need here for emergency vehicles, whatever? We could probably cheat here a little bit and probably give you I'm not sure, but I thought we talked about 9 feet. It was 9 square feet.
12.
9 by 16 feet. Yeah.
Your parking stalls are 9 by 18 on your plans.
He's trying to do a calculation of the square footage of the lot and 3% of that, or whatever the variance is. 1% is roughly 123 square feet of green space. So times 3.7. So let's say times 4%, which would get you under the 65. You're looking at just under 500 square feet of additional green space. Okay. Anything else from the board?
I got one more.
Okay.
If because I want you on the record.
Yes.
You know why.
Yes,
okay?
I know why.
you are going to take that concrete out and put grass in front of the building. Not that all of a sudden, oops, it changed again.
It's not.
So what you're telling me,
Pavement. It's
you're
pavement.
taking the pavement out,
Yes.
okay, and putting grass from the front of your building to the sidewalk,
To the curb.
to the curb.
To existing curb, yes, sir. What we did this winter to test this, because we knew this was an issue, we put cones. We haven't even used the front of the building to see if the issue that the contractor thought was going to be an issue, it is somewhat of an issue, but it's not a bad enough issue where we couldn't put grass there and put the snow hills on top of the grass. So that's what we're trying to do. So the plow guy that thought it was going to be a big issue, it wasn't such an issue. So we can do that. So we're going to cut the pavement, we're going to dig it all up, hopefully they don't destroy everything that's brand new there, and we're going to figure out a way to put new curbing where the cuts are, and then put new grass. I wanted to put turf over the pavement, which I thought would be the easiest way to do this, but because turf doesn't, whatever, the water stuff, we have to actually dig it up.
That's probably why I just asked you on the record if
Oh,
you're
yeah,
going to
yeah.
put
No.
grass there.
No,
Okay?
we already agreed to put grass
All
there.
right, real grass, yeah.
Yeah, real grass. The kind you
Okay.
have to cut and dies and gets weeds and all that.
All
Yep,
right.
that kind. We're gonna do that. And if you know, we could try to cheat over here near the handicap spot and put a little grass to maybe make up. I didn't realize it's 500 square feet, but we looked at making the building smaller. And we talked about, you guys, we already made it smaller before, and basically if we make it smaller again, we're not gonna have room to put a stairway to go up to where we need to go up.
I
So
know.
I thought that would be a solution, just cheat on the building a little bit, and that wouldn't work either.
All right.
Anyone in the audience? Okay, come on up.
Hi, my name is Barbara DeChambeau, and I am the house right here. Right here is bushes right now, and there's like a hill that goes down. And I have a little bit of grass at the bottom, and then my driveway is right there. I'm wondering, I'm worried about the drainage, like I have that. Still got a problem already yet with my house, where they put the sewer in the wrong place, so it doesn't help my basement. And now,
Miss, I'm sorry, I can't hear
I'm
you.
sorry.
That's all right, thank you.
I'm worried about the drainage, because they're taking away all the green space, and it's gonna, the water's gonna come down the hill, a lot more water, and I'm just worried about it. It's already been into my garage, and people here put in cement, paved it, and it comes down into my yard here. More water because it can't absorb. And I'm also worried about this building they're going to put in. I mean, how close is that going to be to their property line from my line? How many feet? Isn't there a amount you can't go over or something?
Sam?
Yes.
Like there's a...
Yeah.
The back building's already been approved, but there's a giant swimming pool on the side there, that right here, there's a gutter, like a giant gutter. So any of the water that comes here goes into this gutter, and it goes into this giant swimming pool that's underground that you don't see, and it catches all the water. And they have already approved that. So you won't get any more water going back there.
That's out in the front of you, up there. This problem is along here, and this is where you are.
Right, but
The hill is.
but the green space issue we're talking about is up here right now. So anything that maybe come this way, there's a sewer catch there, and there's a sewer catch there, and it goes into the swimming pool.
Right. But I'm still worried about this.
You know,
I have a right to worry about
Yeah,
that
yeah, I
and
mean-
ask questions, right?
Yes, sure.
So I was wondering what's going to happen about the water coming, if he puts a building there too, that takes away all the green space, and he wants to put in, what, a three-car garage, you said, with the thing above it. That's going to loom way above my property. So when I come out, there it is. It's a big thing to look at. I don't understand why this is only a quarter of an acre, and he's putting two big, tall things on the property. I don't understand that.
Okay.
It's
Well, the original application for this project before this board and the planning board is probably a year old, maybe more than that. And the construction has been approved by both this board and the planning board, honestly, quite some time ago. Those issues that you raised were discussed previously, considered by this board, and I'm sure the planning board. What happened, you may have heard tonight, is due to some inadvertent construction in areas where it shouldn't have been, and some miscalculations of square footage, interpretations, I should say. They're back tonight, not for approval of the building or not for setback approval. They've already received the approvals. They're here just requesting that this board grant a frankly very small variance from the green space requirement that has been made necessary by those construction errors and differing interpretations that
Right, I
I've mentioned.
understand that, but when do I find out about what's bothering me?
What I would suggest you do, honestly, if you have questions about the plan and what mitigation was required for that, is either meet with the applicant and his engineer, or call town and come on in. I make sure they'd be glad to sit with you and the town engineer to answer questions about how your concerns will be addressed. And if you are experiencing problems in the future, you know, whom you should call about it. Hopefully that's going to all be addressed.
Right.
And you won't. But honestly, we can't go back in time and ungrant requests that this board has given or the planning board has. So that's probably not very helpful, but I'm being candid.
Well, and also there's a lot of lights around the building too, and they're
Right.
up high on the first building, so they shine everywhere, so.
Okay?
Thank you.
My name's Kelly Vogt, and I live at 4 Rossman Drive, which is kind of right across, kitty crossed from the building. My personal opinion is we shouldn't give him any more variances. I think he needs to put every drop of dirt and grass that he needs to. I've had to make many accommodations for things that I have had nothing to control over, but to meet his needs and what he wants. For example, Barb is right, there's a lot of lights, they shine, they're on the top of the building, they don't shine down, they shine bright out, they're there all the time. He actually has more signage than he has. I sat in one meeting here, I think you guys had 8 people for signage up here. Most of them got turned down. He's got a brake sign in the front, he's got 2 signs on the side, and he has 4 little signs on each corner. They're little pizzas, but it does say salvadoras.com. I assume those are signage, so he has 7 signs on his building. And he also requested to have the telephone pole moved, and I'm sure it was moved because it's going to be in the way of his house. So when they went to move the telephone pole over a couple of feet, I called RG&E, and they were like, we have a right to move it. And I said, well, I want it to stay, and they were like, well, the customer asked it to be moved. And I said, well, I'm a customer also. And they said, the customer asked it to be moved, so it's going to get moved. And it's going to get moved because there's a parking lot there. And I said, the parking lot's already done. There's no parking lot there anymore. It's because he wants his house. And they said, but the telephone pole is going to be moved. And my 2 options, if I wanted to have electricity to my house, was to either not have electricity or run it through my arborvitaes. So the electrical line is now run through my arborvitaes. And if you were by there today, I have a whole bunch of sticks and branches in my yard because one of my big branches came down. The telephone wires wrapped all around the arborvitae that goes there, and I still have yet to have my cable line moved and my telephone line moved. So I can only imagine with 3 lines flying around up there and twisting around in the arborvitaes that they're up there, and that was my option. I didn't have an option to have it moved. The question was the customer wanted it moved, so we're going to move it. And it didn't matter that I was also a customer, and I didn't want it moved, and like I said, the reason was because the parking lot was going to go there, and it was didn't matter that there was no longer going to be a parking lot there. So, and then talking about the parking lot, when winter started this winter, he was not having it plowed very much. His employees were parking in the street. There was, and I don't remember the exact day, but it was a Friday when we had really bad snowstorm. One of the employees could not park in the parking lot because he was not plowing it. And so this employee left their car in the street, right in the Rossman, where the Hair Zoo comes out. I know that, I am assuming that it is a Salvatore's employee because the back of the car said salvatores.com, so I'm assuming it's their car. The car was left there over 24 hours. Plow trucks had to go around it, and as a matter of fact, there happened to be either at his place or the Hair Zoo, I'm not sure which one, the fire trucks came out. That car was still parked there. The fire trucks had to park in front of my house because that one. After that instance, he did start plowing his driveway. So, you know, I just have a feel that I have, for me having nothing to do with any of the things, I have had to make numerous accommodations, and we have given him variance after variance after variance. I understand this was approved a year and a half ago. Both Barb and I have been at every one of these stinking meetings. And yet, none of our things get heard or concerned or accommodated, but yet I have to accommodate one more thing so that his needs can be met. And I get my telephone wires, you know, wrapped around the arborvitaes. Or not have electricity. Those are my two options. That's all I got to say.
Okay, thank you.
Sam, go ahead.
I'll first address Barb regarding the garage. It's basically double the size of the garage that had been there for 40 or 50 years. We are trying to make it as low as we can, so the lower it is, the less steps there is to go up to our apartment above it. It won't be that high. We're going to leave all those shrubs, so I don't think you're going to have any issues with anything disrupting you in any way. The telephone pole, the RG&E put X on it, up and down the street on poles that were slanting and ready to be taken down. I showed the guy the print, and I showed him that this is going to be a house now in front of it, and up and down the street, on the side of the street where there's a pole, they put the pole between the two house lines, on the lot line. So they're putting the pole on the lot line. That was the request that the guy made, not me. I don't know how they run her wires and all that. I can't address that issue. Regarding the signage that was approved, this board did mention the logos on the awning. I made it clear that those are branded.
You don't have to get into that.
Okay.
She voiced a concern to me, just, hey, you've given this guy a lot, including a lot of signs.
I mean, I am trying, like, the plowing thing and my cousin getting stuck, we weren't in the building at that point in time. So I wasn't having to plow because we weren't in the building.
Right.
And once we moved in, the guy that plows the Hair Zoo plows us. We did have the permission to park at the Hair Zoo when we did go in and paint and do repairs, and he got stuck. I mean, it was a snowstorm. I'm trying to be a good neighbor. The house looks gorgeous. I'm there every day picking up bottles and cans and stuff that happen, especially after the weekend on Empire Boulevard, what's going on with traffic. I mean, we're doing our best, but, you know, neighbors' trees fall down, they're down for weeks and months, and, you know, it happens, you know. My daughter lives in the street. We're trying to do everything we can to make this right. We've put a lot of money and a lot of time in this. I think we're pushing on 2 years now working on this project.
And appearances before the zoning board.
Yes.
You guys are running neck to neck with Baytown Plaza.
Not even close.
Okay, anybody else?
Thank you.
You are welcome. Okay, next application, please.
Erica Lees, I'm So Bored LLC, 60 Castle Acres Drive, Webster, New York, 14580. Requests a special permit for a change of use under section 250-5.7-B2 of the code to allow the operation of a board and brush creative studio business at 900 Panorama Trail South. The property is owned by Turner Family Associates LP and Zone General Business, SBL number 138.12-1-3.1. This is application number 18Z-0022.
Hi, my name is Erica Lees. I am the owner of I'm So Bored LLC, and I am requesting a change of use for 900 Panorama Trail South in Penfield, so that I can bring a Board and Brush creative studio to the Rochester area. Board and Brush is, at this time, there are no locations in the region. Our location would be the second in New York State. The first one just opened this past weekend outside of Albany. And so it's a really great business idea. Basically, we have studio time where people can come in and we teach them how to make these great signs, which I brought some examples, out of wood, and they stain them and build the sign, and they are able to stencil and personalize the sign to their making so that they can go home and display it in their homes. Board and Brush does have a BYOB, so basically they can bring wine or beer, so we will have a liquor license with New York State in order to allow for that. And I know there are other businesses in the region that do the same thing, so we shouldn't have any issues getting a liquor license according to the consultant that I'm working with for that. And I think it would be a great opportunity for just activities for the I'm nervous, for the people in the area. We offer all sorts of parties, birthday parties for kids, showers, bachelorette parties. We have parent-child classes where they can come together and do a project. We also try to do regular fundraisers for charities in the local schools.
Did you say bachelorette parties?
Bachelorette parties.
Okay.
I would say bachelor
Times have
parties,
changed,
but
apparently.
I would say bachelor parties, but most times you don't get bachelors coming to make signs. So.
Okay.
But we do try to do regular fundraisers for charities and for the local schools as well. Events for Girl Scouts and things like that. So we try to be a good member of the community and give back whenever possible. And I have a couple of example signs. So they come, and these are pretty substantial for what they learn how to do.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
So you would come and you would actually build the sign and kind of hold that up. Okay? So you would build it, stain it, stencil it, you can personalize them. And then, you get to have an outing with your friends, and you can take this home and hang it on your wall. So, as far as the days and hours, the calendar is is variable. Basically, it's not a set calendar. We're not a 9 to 5 business. We can set the days and times. People can schedule private parties in the studio. So we kind of try to make the time available for them. Most of the classes would be, if they're during the week, they would be in the evenings when people are home from work, and then Saturday and Sunday hours, And usually there'll probably be 1 or 2 classes on a Saturday or Sunday, maybe at 1 o'clock and then a 6:30 in the evening, something like that, unless somebody schedules a private party. As far as parking, there are 80 spots in the parking lot available. Originally we were thinking 7 to 8 tables within our studio, so parking would be 48 to 56 if we were at maximum capacity. Plus we have a 1 to 6 ratio of employees, so we'll be hiring somewhere between 8 and 15 employees, part-time usually, to help. So one of the things that we don't want to do is take away from other possible business parking. I'm not sure how that would affect, would that limit other possible businesses in the building from being able to utilize parking? I'm not sure how the zoning board looks at that, so we would want to make sure that we're not limiting other people's use of the parking lot. But I could technically adjust the number of tables in the building to sort of accommodate if that was going to be an issue. So all of our storage will be within the site. We don't need any outside storage. We keep all of the wood stored in the site, and we would basically just try to be in compliance with the signage of the town and what the landlord requires, and try to be a good neighbor. So, any questions?
Excellent, thank you. Glad you clarified that you are not a dog kennel and grooming place is Boarded Brush.
No,
Because
we have a lot of those
I didn't
lately.
know it from the application at first what you guys even did. So I figured, well, it's either a dog grooming or building something. So it's one or the other. So thank you. And thorough for my answers, too. Signage is one of the things. Are you going to have a sign outside? It will be illuminated, things
We
like
will
that?
have a sign outside. We haven't applied for that yet, but yeah, so we will have a sign outside. There's several different options. This is a franchise, so we have 164 locations in 35 states. There are a plethora of signs out there, basically designed in a multitude of different ways. I would like to have a lighted sign. Just being up on that hill in the evening, I think it would be easier to see. We have some great designs for really nice signage. So that would be the goal, was to get a nice sign that would light up at night.
Okay.
Are you going to make your own sign?
There are some studio locations that do. They actually build a sign and they stencil. I was looking for, I think I want something lighted, just, because of where we are. I think it would be nice to have that nice lighted sign out there. So, and we're looking at a nice sign. So.
Do you know about how much of the building, the entire building, you'll occupy?
Well, we're in one of the units. It's in the old Country Curtains, was divided into two spaces. It's 2,100 square feet within the building.
Right.
So I'm not sure about of the total what that is, but
But it's less than half, probably. Then, right? Yeah.
I would think
Yeah.
so. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So in terms of parking, you'd probably be fine if you were using less than half of the building and about half the parking at odd hours. That probably wouldn't be so bad then.
Yeah, and like I say, and I would work with the landlord on that too, because I don't want to take away from other businesses, and we can adjust the number of tables in the building. On average, when I look at other studios across the nation, yes, there are times when they fill the capacity during a class, but that doesn't usually happen every single class. I'm not going to say there isn't one or two studios out there that it doesn't happen. Lucky them, but that's not usually how that goes. So,
Sure.
and people do tend to, in my experience, tend to carpool.
Yeah, and
So.
seven days a week, most likely? You'd be or the option for that?
We would have the option, but it's likely not. We'll probably, we'll schedule out a couple of classes, and we'll probably, sometimes it might be on a Tuesday, and the next week it might be on a Thursday, that kind of thing. So we'll probably do a couple of classes a week.
Okay.
So it won't be every day. So, unless people book a private party and that kind of a thing. and
Sure,
they
so
would
it's
be-
just so it's part-time employees, the business isn't open all the time?
That's exactly right, yes, yep.
Excellent, that's all I have.
Anybody else on the board?
It sounds like you're working with some hazardous materials. Do you have all the safety sprinkler precautions in place?
There are sprinklers in the building.
Okay.
There's actually quite a few along the ceilings. And we are mainly working, yes, with the paint and stain, and I'll be working to make sure that we are, within code as far as storing and disposing of any
How do
of
you
that,
work with
too.
the fumes for that?
Well, the stains, we can get a lower VOC, so basically that keeps the fumes down, and a lot of studios do use that, because even then, you do the sign, you take it home, and you can smell it. So, we're trying to work with the lower VOC to help with the smell.
I just didn't know if you needed a ventilation system for that.
Not that I know of yet, but that doesn't mean, if we do, that's something we can look into as
Okay.
well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anyone in the audience? Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Randy Eval, TY Land International, 255 East Avenue, Rochester, New York, 14604. On behalf of McDonald's USA LLC, request a special permit under Section 250-10.3 of the code to allow more than one building-mounted sign under Section 250-10.13-C of the code, and signage with greater graphics, trademarks, or logos than permitted under Section 250-10.11-E of the code at 2191 Penfield Road. The property is owned by Mary Ellen Guan and is zoned general business, SBL number 140.01-2-1.1. This is application number 18Z-0023.
Good evening.
I was wondering why you were still here.
Oh, I just like hanging out here, what
Yeah,
can I
okay.
say? So, So, thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the Zoning Board of Appeals. My name is Betsy Brugg. I'm here from Woods Oviatt Gilman with Randy Bebout, and we're here on this McDonald's application. And I'll start by thanking the board for giving us the opportunity to come back here tonight. There had been a previous application that was denied, and our new application before you should look somewhat familiar. It is a McDonald's. We are showing 3 wall-mounted signs. It is a substantial reduction in square footage from what was originally proposed. I think we've reduced it by 44%. What is no longer requested is a McDonald's word sign. We are proposing 3 wall signs. Each one is 14 square feet in size. Pursuant to code, we have 2 frontages. We would be allowed 274 square feet of signage. So this is significantly less than the square footage that code would allow. However, it's just smaller signs. In fact, I was sitting here kind of eyeing how big they really are in real life if you were to have it right here, and I think they would maybe extend just a little above the height of your counter, just for perspective. They're relatively small. They're not particularly massive. They are just the golden arches. They are 1 on each frontage and 1 on the inside parking, and that's just because that's how these sites are designed today, with circulation around the site. There is street visibility on 2 fronts. This is part of an upgrade of the overall appearance and remodel of the facility. So signage, the signage falls under the special permit provisions of your code. I'm sure, as the board knows, a special permit is essentially a use that is deemed permitted, provided that we meet certain conditions. We have addressed them in writing, but I'll touch upon them very briefly. The proposed sign is in harmony with the standards for permitted signs and within the spirit of this article. As I mentioned, what is being proposed is significantly less than the total square footage allowed by code. It is 3. I believe Randy did provide you with sort of an inventory of the many businesses that have 2 and 3 signs. Among the multi-sign businesses are a Chase Bank, I think, that has 3, a Walgreens that has, I don't know, 5 or 6 maybe. Taco Bell has 2 on each of 2 sides for a total of 4. Chili's has 3, so it's not unprecedented. And again, I think the consideration is really site-specific on the what's appropriate for a particular location. But as far as compatibility with the standards for permitted signage, it's sort of an odd standard because by definition a special permit is deemed to be in harmony with the zoning and consistent and considered a permitted use provided that we meet the criteria. So we are proposing 42 square feet total, or approximately 15.3% of the permitted signage. The second criteria, the proposed sign shall be compatible with and not be detrimental to neighborhood properties. These are very simple signs. They are not flashing. They are not multicolor. They're not massive, so I don't think they will have any adverse impact. If anything, they are quite consistent and perhaps even less dominant than other signage you might find in the area, simply because they're just very simple. They're small. And not, they're really not a dominant type of a sign structure. You have in your application a list of all the other sites that have multiple signs. The third criteria, whether the proposed sign does not, by reason of its location, create a hazard of any nature to the public in general or to any owner-occupant of neighborhood properties. There's nothing hazardous about these signs. Again, they are properly placed. They provide some wayfinding. People's eyes tend to be drawn to where the sign is when they're looking for an entrance or looking for the orientation of a site. So I think they're helpful to the traveling public and provide sort of some discrete wayfinding. At the same time, the question being whether there's any detriment. There is no detriment from these particular signs that can be discerned. The fourth criteria, whether the proposed sign does not in any way interfere with the lawful or aesthetic enjoyment of the public highway or neighborhood properties. Again, I think it provides appropriate signage identification for the site for traffic on 3 sides, both on the 2 street frontages and the interior traffic circulation. At the same time, I don't think it interferes or poses any type of hazard or concern for the public highway or anyway impacts the experience on the road. It's very consistent with other signage you will find for other properties on corner locations or in the area. And the final criteria is where applicable, the proposed sign is necessary to adequately identify the business. We believe it is. This is a building with 2 frontages, 2 separate entrances, a drive-through. There's a lot of activity on the site related to the business, and we believe that this signage is appropriate and adequate to identify the business. You know, they would have liked to have their full name on the building, but this is sufficient and accomplishes what they need to do to adequately identify the business. So I think we've addressed the legal criteria. You know, we'd be happy to answer any questions. I don't know, Randy, if you want to add anything. We're good. So.
Thank you. And I appreciate the efforts to try to reduce the sign package. So I'm just wanting to make sure that I'm understanding it correctly. Are the arches the same size as were in the original package? So
They
the
are.
only difference is that the McDonald's print name is gone in type?
Correct.
Okay. Are you still thinking there's a freestanding sign?
The freestanding sign is remaining. It's previously approved. I took a look just to know how that sign was there. There is an approval from this very board from 2006 that also issues a special use permit for the freestanding sign. Again, that decision makes findings of fact determining that that sign is appropriate and an approval was granted for it. It was not a variance. It's not a pre-existing non-conforming sign. It is a sign that was approved by this board.
So I can understand why you definitely would want the brand wall, which is the drive-through side, to have that arch there, and I understand the reasoning for an arch on the front. I guess I'm wondering if you really needed an arch on the south side of the building, because you've got the monument sign as you're approaching it from the south. So I'm just wondering if that one's really necessary.
Make sure I'm orienting myself. So here's the drive-through. So you're talking about the parking lot side?
Talking about the parking lot side.
So,
because there's just like the arborvitae or that wall there that
yeah.
I can't even remember what's there.
I can understand where your question comes from. When I look at it, I think one of the valuable things about that particular sign is, and you can put yourself, park your car. If you're a regular, it doesn't really matter. But if you're not a regular and you're going into a business, just think how often you look, how do you find the door? Often it is because of the location of some sign or something that's telling you that this is the entrance and kind of giving you an idea of where to park to find the door. So I think that's that there is some value to that sign to people coming in, parking, looking for a parking spot, who are just looking for how to enter the building.
Okay.
So, and I'll let Randy.
Okay.
Yeah, and the only other thing I would add to that is just the consistency. I mean, we'd spoken about it before that McDonald's, this is a different look. They're doing this in a lot of places, but it's a new look for their buildings. They're trying to create the brand, and this is referred to as a brand wall. All 3 of these are referred to as a brand wall. So from really an aesthetics, architectural standpoint, they would like this to be consistent on the entire building and not just have it here and have it here and not have it here. It would certainly be preferable to have it there, in addition to what Betsy said. So that's the reasoning for it.
Yeah, I get where corporate is coming from. One of the things that in your application, you mentioned all those specific examples, and as we've talked before, many times those, I can't go specifically into each one, but there's been a trade-off. So they haven't gotten that freestanding sign. They've given that up to take some additional signage on the building.
The one thing I would add to this is our 3 signs being at 42 square feet are probably significantly less than most of the buildings that have 2 signs. And I have pictures of all those. I could go through them. I don't have exact square footages, but just looking at them graphically, you can tell that they're less square footage than most of the buildings that have 2 signs.
Sure, but I also am thinking the number of signs
understood.
as well.
Yep.
So you're getting where I'm coming from too, right? And would you be willing to maybe look at 2 signs and the freestanding sign?
Yes, I mean, yeah, but certainly we would love to have what we're proposed here, but in lieu of walking out of here the same as we did last time, it's important that I think the building, if you took the facade, the front facade at the top left corner, you don't put a sign on that, it's gonna look really awkward. I mean, and I'm not saying that because I'm working from it, it's just gonna look bare. I think the consistency, as you pointed out, of having that on the two fronts is very important. Yes.
Did you want to say something?
No, I was really just going to comment that, the interesting thing about McDonald's signs compared to other signs is that, I don't want to say it's a logo, but it's such a small, it's one letter, it's kind of I almost want to say it's almost ornamental in some ways.
I understand that. I always worry about, precedent and things like that, and
I understand.
We want to be consistent as well. I was just thinking about Aldi's down the road from you would kind of have a similar situation where they've got 2 mounted signs and a freestanding sign, and they wanted more signage. So I just throw that out there.
I think the interior sign is, the street frontage signs are the most important.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Right.
Understood.
Yep, those two.
Thank you. That was all I had.
Yeah, I got one there. Do you know your flagship store, am I correct? Do you know what that means? No, huh?
Well,
Hard to believe.
When you say flagship, I mean, this
You
store-
better go up to the microphone.
Sorry.
Yeah.
It's okay.
When we were here in 2006, Mr. Guan talked about the store having the opportunity to do some things, some testing in the market that some other stores didn't have the opportunity to do. And it's in the minutes, was the justifications, part of the justifications for granting the reader board sign that we've been talking about. So.
Exactly, that's what I meant. I wondered if you were still, quote, a flagship store, but I think you are.
Yes.
In other words, what happens is you have a lot of new, if McDonald's comes out with something new, they send it to this store, am I correct? So
That's
people
correct.
are actually looking for the address of this place and looking for a McDonald's that has the one unique thing that all the other McDonald's don't have. So
That's correct.
that's what my understanding was of the flagship store, and that's why you got the reader board, and people are looking for it, for this particular one. So,
Yeah, I mean, the reader board is not specific to this. I mean, we have reader boards at a lot of sites.
Yeah.
Most sites. More often than not, I would say.
okay.
Anything else from the board?
I just wanted to comment, I mean, the call on is there's always a lot of hidden signs because there's a total of 13 signs on site according to your plans. 4 of those are directional, so those make sense, but there's always all those hidden signs, like, as you pull into the drive-throughs, all the various signs there. So it's good to hear that you were looking at, if you're going to keep the monument sign and the reader board out front, that, you would consider removing one from the building as well, because I would be in favor of that.
Okay. That would be.
Thank you.
That'll be fine. Yes, thanks.
Anyone in the audience care to speak about this? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Paul Colucci, DeMarco Baytown Associates LLC, 1950 Brighton Henrietta Town Line Road, Rochester, New York, 14623. Requests a special permit under Section 250-10.3 of the code to allow a larger freestanding sign than permitted under Section 250-10.12-B3 of the code, with less setback than permitted under Section 250-10.12-D of the code, and taller than permitted under Section 250-10.12-E of the code at 1930 Empire Boulevard. The property is owned by 1930 Empire Boulevard Holdings, LLC, and is zoned general business, SBL number 093.02-1-19. This is application number 18Z-0024.
Paul, if you don't mind, before you start.
Sure.
I just want to note that these applications tonight, I think, are the result of good communication between the board, town staff, you and your company, where this board has entertained several applications over the months and years for individual signage and tenants that are working real hard to try to make a living et cetera, but perhaps needed a little boost, a little bit of help in terms of extra signage. Probably during most of those applications, we've asked you to work with the staff and to develop a full sign package for the plaza. You've done that, put a lot of time and effort into it, and I just want people out there to, when they see 4 applications in a row, for frankly, a lot, it's the result of this collaborative process, and we certainly appreciate the effort. So.
Well, I appreciate those words, and thank you, Mr. Chairman. You're correct. We have been working at Baytown Plaza for a lot of years.
Right.
And we're pleased to be here tonight to present this comprehensive signage package to the Zoning Board of Appeals. Joining me tonight is Bridget Shoemaker with AJ Signs. Bridget's the sign consultant and the sign company we're working with in developing the sign package. Also joining me, John DeMarco, owner of Baytown Plaza, Bill Dirtle, president of our property management company, and Howie Jacobson. Howie works as a consultant on behalf of Baytown Plaza Public Relations and Tenant Relations, and a lot of what we have developed in here is a result of Howie's interaction with the Merchants Association that's active with Baytown Plaza and the tenants directly. So I just wanted to introduce them. They're part of the team. I'm going to go through and go through the presentation, and then technical questions related to signage Bridget will answer. Operational questions, hopefully we have the team here that can answer any questions you have. As Andy read, we have 5 different variance applications. I tailored them individually, but we want to talk collectively that this is a comprehensive package for Baytown for signage. Baytown Plaza consists of 5 separate parcels, and I'm just going to run through them real quickly. We have the Baytown, the main Baytown tract, which includes the main building that used to house Tops. We cut that street of shops in. Where Walmart used to be is now occupied by Burlington, Planet Fitness, and Shoe Department. Strip building, the bank, the McDonald's. This parcel is 34 acres, totaling about 260,000 square feet. We also have the developer tract that was coined when we were doing the rezoning and the redevelopment of Baytown. The developer tract consists of 8 acres and currently has 1 building constructed on it. It's a U of R medical building, but that tract totally could support approximately 58,000 square feet. We also have the Walmart tract, which is a single purpose tract, 186,000 square foot Walmart. That's 23 acres. When we talk Baytown, we also include Chili's in that mix. That's a 1 acre parcel that houses a 4,500 square foot Chili's, and then currently going to be developing the former Beal Cafe, 1930 Empire Boulevard, anchor tenant Verizon, again, 1 acre parcel, 6,000 square feet. So all total, Baytown, just the retail portion, is 67 acres and 515,000 square feet, so better than 500,000 square feet. The frontage that we occupy along Creek Street and Empire Boulevard is about 1,800 feet from south limits of the property to the north limits at Brant Point Drive. It's better than a quarter mile, a little less than a half mile. So quite a bit of frontage. There are parcels we do not own that are parsed across the Speedway gas station, the Taco Bell, and the other 2 parcels, the oil change and Monroe or Midas Muffler. So when we talk about signage at Baytown, we're looking at layers of signage, and we're looking at what information are we trying to convey at the right-of-way where the general public is traveling, motorists are traveling. There's approximately 28,000 cars per day along Empire Boulevard. We have 5 principal entrances into Baytown. We have Brant Point Drive at the north, signalized intersection. We have a limited access intersection, a right in, right out at the southern limits of Chili's, and that entrance runs east-west and found itself right on the general merchandise portion of Walmart's business. We set that up specifically in that manner. We also made a strategic decision to acquire 1930 Empire Boulevard, as that is another east-west access point into the plaza, right through the town center portion of the development, and that anchors itself on the Walmart grocery portion of the plaza. We have the existing signalized access at the main Baytown entrance, and then we have an access point at Creek Street. So between these 5 principal entries, we're looking at opportunities where people are traveling in and out of the plaza, and where can we convey information to those motorists that there are tenants in the plaza. Baytown is a unique plaza in that traditionally retail fronts on a right-of-way. As you are well aware, the code allows for business identification sign of certain proportion relative to frontage that a business occupies, and freestanding signage. Traditionally, the business identification sign on the principal face of the structure can be seen from the right-of-way. In this case, the buildings in Baytown are either not visible to the right-of-way, or they're upwards of 1,500 feet back from the right-of-way, which is the case with the Burlington building and the Walmart building. So you're familiar with our application. As the chairman alluded to, one of the previous applications I was here before this board, and that was for pylon A, the pylon northernmost at Brant Point Drive. This pylon was a subject of a special permit for signage. This board granted 3 separate variances, one for total square footage in excess of the 50 square feet allowed per face. This is 128 square feet per face, 23 feet tall, whereas 20 feet is allowed by code. And then due to the proximity of where the sign was placed, we're 2 feet setback from the right-of-way of Brant Point Drive. So this sign is up, it's constructed. I think when we were under deliberation with this board, initially we tabled it, I put a mock-up up, and we got very comfortable with the scale and size of this sign. The signage that we're developing now as it relates to these other locations, so that was pylon A, pylon B, and I will show you these individually, is located at 1930. We have a sign cabinet proposed on the Baytown Monument, and we have pylon C proposed at Creek Street. This is, if we are successful with comprehensive signage, the tenants that we would foresee having position on pylon A. So you can see the red shaded portions. Oop, got a little aggressive. The red shaded portions would be those tenants that we foresee being on this pylon A. And of primary importance, really from a brand recognition and what drives traffic, are the anchor tenants. So you'll see those repeated, but those anchor tenants are drawing traffic past tenants that are local run businesses, people investing their own money who don't have the budget to spend on national advertising, who don't have the budget to spend on the weekly mailers and that which the national corporations do. So we're trying to layer signage in a way that it helps capitalize on what nationals are doing to support those local businesses that have invested in the plaza. Pylon B is identical to the one that you have seen before, which I'm calling pylon A. The only difference with this one is, subject to my last interaction with the project review committee, and what we've known as plaza owners, this portion of Penfield kind of struggles with its own identity that it's really in Penfield. We have several tenants who believe they're in Webster. Actually, when they reach out to me to make application, more often than not, they say that they have gone to the town of Webster, and I have to correct them that they have to go to the town of Webster. And we're actually embarrassed to say that some tenants have had grand openings and have invited dignitaries from the town of Webster to their grand opening and have made donations to the town of Webster's school district and other types of endeavors. So we're trying to reinforce this with our tenants. We let them know they're in the town of Penfield. One of the ideas that we came up with when I was talking with PRC is find some way to designate that we are actually in the town of Penfield. And this is something that we worked with our sign vendor to modify and actually supplemented back to Andy a revised application for this freestanding sign to include the notation Penfield. It is subtle, it's underneath Baytown, it's a play on town of Penfield, and we feel very strongly that we could incorporate that and reinforce and anchor this area that it is Penfield. The rest of the sign is identical. What is different from this sign application that what you previously approved is in incorporating that Penfield moniker. We had to stretch the cabinet lower. This sign would be 148 square feet, where the previous one was 128. So we were asking for 3 variances for this sign, 148 square feet in excess of the 50. This sign would be set back 14 feet from the southerly property line. This is a screenshot of the approved plan for 1930 where this sign wants to be placed with enough room off of the drive aisle. I gave 5 feet here. That puts us 14 feet to the southerly property line, so I'm asking for a side yard setback variance, and then 23 feet tall where 20 feet is allowed by code. So pylon B would require three individual variances.
I'm going to interrupt you and ask a question at this
Yes.
point, and you've touched on some of it, but what factors went into your decision when you were deciding where to put that sign?
Simple placement,
Yes.
available land, trying to meet the setback for 20 feet from the right-of-way. So when I look at 20 feet from the right-of-way, where can I place that sign? The drive is fixed, given the position of the building. As we know, I was here a couple months ago for a side yard setback to place this building. The available real estate between the southerly property line and a drive aisle really dictates placement.
Okay. And the result of your decision, does that raise any concerns for safety, sight distance, anything along those lines?
Not on this one. There's, as you can see, a stop bar located right behind the parking, or right behind the sidewalk. This is unlimited sight. The sight triangle is not limited by placement of that sign.
Okay. And Beale Street had a freestanding sign, didn't it?
Yes.
Can you point where that was, a ballpark?
It's right about where the driveway is going to be.
And any idea how tall that was and how large it was? Anybody know? Anybody? Pete, how about you? No?
It was a acrylic cabinet.
Yeah. Okay.
On a monopole.
Great.
The pole is still there. The cabinet is gone.
Okay, go ahead, Paul. Thanks.
So again, and you'll see this exhibit repeated. This sign we would envision under a comprehensive plan to have these types of tenants in these locations with identification on this sign. And this is, again, a principal entry point. This area is being branded as Brant Point Park. You'll hear a little bit more about that later. This is approximately about a half acre of green area in the center of the park that we're going to be starting this summer with some summer event series that we're going to be trying to do there. Movies, movie night, car shows, stuff of that nature. So we're trying to give this area an identity, and these tenants in that area would be identified on this pylon sign. The next sign is a 15-foot by 17-foot cabinet placed on the north and the south face of the existing Baytown Monument. This particular sign would require 2 separate variances, one for sign square footage in excess of the 50 square feet as allowed by code, and then this one, as it would be on Baytown's principal lot, the 34-acre lot, and the next one you'll see at Creek Street, make two signs, two freestanding signs on a single lot. So I tailored the application to request a variance for in excess of one, and thereby allowing two freestanding signs on the property, which is known as the Baytown Tract. These are, and I should go back, but just briefly, all the signs that you've seen so far are internally illuminated. These are acrylic panels, translucent, with the tenant's particular signage on them. And this would be two cabinets, 15 feet by 17 feet, and they fit right in between those Baytown pillars that make up the large monument. And again, this exhibit showing the types of tenants, the location under comprehensive signage, where we would envision those tenants located in the plaza having identification on the monument sign. The third new sign is basically the exact same thing you saw at B. It has the moniker for Penfield, 148 square feet per face. This one requires two variances. I'm sorry, three. One for 148 square feet in excess of 50 square feet. Again, this is a second freestanding sign on the Baytown tract, so a request for variance for two signs. And then this is 23 feet tall, so 3 feet in excess of that, which is allowed by code. We know for certain that there are many residents in Penfield that access the plaza off of Creek Street, and they travel to Walmart. And we've seen them, we've tracked some vehicles just through observation, and they come in and they make their way right to Walmart and they leave. And these folks don't really know what other offerings are in the plaza as it relates to, they're just on a typical routine, right? A lot of folks doing their essential shopping here and coming in and out. So we want the ability to identify to them that there are other offerings, and you'll see that not only in this first layer of signage at the right-of-way, but also as I get into the directory signs, which are the next layer that we will get into. So what I did was I had a...
By the way, let me interrupt you again. Does your research lead you to believe that the same number of people that are using that entrance use that exit?
Yeah.
Because I know I don't, honestly. I use that entrance, but I rarely exit there. I'll go out the what I call the front.
The front.
Yeah. There's a light.
And I think it's time of day. I think there's people who know that maybe a left maneuver out at Creek Street during a peak hour might be a bit challenging, so they'll take advantage of the signal.
Yeah.
We're pleased with the way the signalization is working, but again...
and if you are going to Walmart, there are exits that are kind of closer to when you're leaving Walmart, you're shooting up Daniels Creek, or even what'll be down the middle as well. But okay.
Well, and ironically, you know, we also believe that there's folks who only enter through Brant Point Drive because that's where the Walmart sign is.
Yeah.
And they're conditioned to see this is where I go in and out for Walmart. And whether they're coming from Webster or whether they're coming from Penfield, they're going through 3 signals to get to just to go to Walmart. And I think it's different behaviors for different people. This is a short fly-through. I had a drone fly the right-of-way safely above the right-of-way from Creek Street, and we modeled in the signs. So you're going to see here the signs that are proposed solely for the 4 signs at the right-of-way. So this is coming up Creek Street, and then we're turning on to Empire Boulevard here.
You're going too slow for Empire Boulevard.
That's Pylon B.
Simulation of
Now we're at Brant Point Drive, the existing pylon, and we're going to head back. And I think, you know, what I wanted to demonstrate to you here is that this is a lot of right-of-way. This is a long distance. This is a corridor that we've invested a lot in, and we like the architectural styling. And I think that what I was fearful you would be concerned with was that this is cluttering the right-of-way. But I think this demonstration shows that there's not a negative impact when you would be driving down this as it relates to signage. We want to identify these locations where there are principal entries into the plaza, and we want to be able to draw the tenants' presence out to the right-of-way so that they have an opportunity to be understood what offerings are in the plaza. We can't put everyone on these freestanding signs, but our goal is to identify key tenants that can have an impact, and then we have other layers of signage. And the next ones I'm going to go into. Thanks, Bridget. Are the directory signs. So this exhibit is showing 7 locations where there's directory signs, numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And these directory signs, as you'll note, are all similar in architectural styling. They have this, oh, again, I got aggressive there. They have the similar stone base. These are aluminum cabinets on top of the stone base, the same type of materials we have in Baytown now. These are not internally illuminated. These are reflectorized font that at night would be illuminated by headlights. We felt it was important to have a uniform font and not get overbearing with logos and differentiating colors where they're competing with one another. And these are to convey information. As you get to decision points within the plaza, what information are we trying to convey? What tenants to make, what decisions to send motorists in which direction? So this is indicative of directories 1, 5, and 6. It is 9 feet tall, 7.5 feet wide. This is 45 square feet of signage per face, and these particular ones, 1, 5, and 6, only have a single face, and on the back there's just a simple message: thank you for visiting Baytown. Location 2 is, you'll see I have exhibits showing the placement of these. This is actually split into 2 separate signs because Baytown's main entrance on the way in is free-flowing. There is not a stop or a controlled movement where someone could take time to stop and read. So we split this and have on the inbound movement on the right, the tenants to turn right so that a quick identifier is there, and then those that are through movements are up forward, and you'll see the placement of that. And this is, I'm calling sign 2L and 2R. We have signs 3 and 4, which are at 4-way intersections, so there's actually 3 decisions at that point. You could go left, straight, or right. These signs are a little bit shorter, but a little bit wider. These are about 7.5 feet tall, 11.25 feet wide. These are the largest of the directory signs. This is 54 square feet per face. These have 8-inch tall panels. As a tenant comes in, moves out, we work with AJ sign companies, we give them the order, we tell them the graphics that we need in there. They send us the graphics, we can take a set screw out, slide a panel out, put panels in. And that's part of property management's role to work who goes on what sign and where.
And Paul, with these signs, again, kind of a similar question that, you know, one's driving along in the plaza and not sure which way to go to get to, oh, I don't know, future tenant.
Supercuts is
Supercuts, yeah, I'm there all the time. But
you and me both.
Yeah, yeah. Well, just want to make sure that that I guess the signs are large enough, the arrows are large enough. There are not too many on so that they're small, so that a person doesn't stop
Right.
And what does that say? What, what am I looking? And I assume that kind of consideration went into your thought process here, and that these are designed to keep traffic moving and moving safely.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes, that's a good point. There are a few other exhibits, but before I jump to those, I'll let Bridget answer the comment you made relative to size of font and distance that we perceive these can be seen from.
All right.
Paul pointed out that each one of those black squares, so each panel is 8 inches tall, which allows for, typically, you don't want to crowd it too much, so about a 5 to 6 inch tall letter, which is legible from about 2 to 3 vehicle distances away. So what we're envisioning is, as you come into Baytown, as most people do, when you come into a shopping plaza, there's a specific need that you have in mind. So if your specific need in that instance is supercuts, you're looking for supercuts. So you're going to be looking at that. You'll be able to recognize their name from 2 to 3 car lengths away. So as you're rolling up, now all of these except for number 2, which he pointed out, are all at stopped intersections.
Okay, good. I was
So you
gonna ask that
actually
next.
are visibly able to see them as you're approaching. So by the time you're stopped, you actually know what direction you need to go. So
By the way, stopped in all directions, do you know, or?
And I'll go through those.
Okay, okay. All right.
But yes, we did do, part of what I do as a consultant for signage is we evaluate distance, legibility, maximum legibility, minimum legibility. And most of these tenants all have very nice, clean logos, and if they do not have a clean, legible logo, we then replace it with a clean, simplified font, which Paul did point out the similarity in the styles, which allows for the easiest readability at that 2 to 3 car length. So, like I said, you can make a decision before you're at a point where you're going to hurt something.
Okay.
So 3 and 4 are the three-way decision points. This is sign 7, which is at a unique location that we came up with an L shape, and I'll show you that in the site exhibit that follows. So it's a little bit washed out on the upper board. I know on your lower board you probably can see it a little bit better. But this is sign number 1. You'd be coming in off of Creek Street. There's a stop bar right here. That sign that you're seeing in this rendering is placed on the landscape median opposite that stop bar. And I set these exhibits up for 2 purposes. One, so I could render in and show you visually where these are going to be and what they would look like in the foreground. And 2, so we could evaluate the sight triangles at these intersections. This is a stop movement here. This is a free flow. This is a free flow movement heading out of the plaza. And what I wanted to show here is that there's a very small blind spot created by this sign, but not enough that you're not going to, the oncoming car would not be hidden in its entirety. So we find this to be an acceptable placement of that sign as it relates to not creating any sight hazard. And that is sign number 1. And again, that would be decision points heading tenants identified here, who to head left for, and who to head right for. The next one is heading in to Baytown Plaza. And again, this is slightly washed out. I know you can see it a little bit better on your monitor below. This is the main plaza entrance. Empire Boulevard would be over here. You're coming in. This is sign 2R, which is this one with decision points going right, and that's placed on the right side of the main drive aisle coming in, so that those patrons who are coming in who want to visit Supercuts, Pizza Hut, and tenants that are right would be able to see that quickly, make that identifier, get in the right lane, and they would slip over this way. Ones that are heading straight into the plaza, there is a sign opposite placed on the landscape median opposite the main plaza entry. And again, we're looking at these sight triangles. Are we creating anything by red that's going to create a hazard? This is a free flow movement in. This is a stop controlled movement out. This is a stop controlled movement here. So again, this exhibit showing that we find this to be an acceptable placement for those signs. We're not creating any hazards. This is at the four-way. So right here would be Gina Marie Salon, CVS. You're coming into the plaza, heading easterly. This is the street of shops. Over here, Witchcraft Brew. This is a three-way decision point. We're placing this sign here. Stop controlled movement here. Stop controlled movement here. Stop, stop. So this is a four-way stop. And again, this is shown placed in that landscape median where there's decisions to head left, who's straight ahead, and who's right. This is, you've come off of Empire Boulevard past the Verizon building, and you're at a four-way stop-controlled intersection right in this area. This is Hand and Stone, Napa Woodfire Pizza here. A directory sign placed in this location. Again, stop-controlled movement. While this does create a blind spot if there was a vehicle here, these are all under stop-controlled, so we find this to be an acceptable placement. This is coming off of Brant Point Drive, Empire Boulevard here, Chili's right at this location, the U of R Medical Building here. This is the placement. We looked at potentially placing this one here. One of our concerns was if you're making a left out, you do have quite a blind spot off to the left, so we moved that just past the drive lane, and it is giving enough of that sight triangle where an oncoming vehicle can be seen by that motorist making a left movement out. So we find this to be an acceptable placement. This is in the plaza. Walmart would be over here. You'd be coming around Brant Point Drive towards what is Shoe Department right in this location. This is showing tenant offerings that would be back to the left in the town center area, and who is forward for those decision points on this left side. The right side would be right turn movements. Again, this is stop controlled. This motorist would typically be looking left for any hazards or right, and as you can see, there's plenty of distance for view if there's an oncoming vehicle and this motorist was turning left. So again, we find this to be an acceptable placement. And lastly, this is that L-shaped one that I talked about. This is right on the corner of the repurposed former Walmart building that now has Shoe Department in Burlington. This is an L-shaped building, so we can have indicators what offerings are left, what offerings are right, and this needs to be seen from two different directions, whether you're traveling southerly along this drive aisle or whether you're coming across the front of what's Baytown Liquor, Once Upon a Child, and you want to be aware of what is on the back side of this building that can't be seen or what tenants are over here. So the 7 locations, we looked at placement, we looked at site triangles. This, again, stop controlled movement heading out, stop controlled movement here. These are free flow, so we look at, are we creating any hazards? We find that these minimal sight distance obstructions don't create a hazard. If we do see that there's any concerns here, we'll work with property management and we would make these movements stop controlled as well. The last layer of signage is pedestrian level signage, and we have 3 locations for pedestrian directories proposed. One at the southerly building, which houses Pizza Hut, the Blood Lab, the UPS store. There'll be a mall-style directory sign that you'll see, one at the flagpole in the Brant Point Park area, and one just behind the bus stop, the bus shelter. These are pedestrian signs that we're proposing. They don't require a variance. They're allowed, but we're showing these as another layer of signage. This would have a map of the plaza, alphabetical listing of tenants, color-coded by type of offering. Food would be a certain color, service-related would be another color, apparel would be a color. And then on the back, there'll be a cabinet. Oh, I think my poker died. There'll be a cabinet on the back that could have public display messages, stuff of that nature, or Merchants Association messaging could go in the back. Lastly, we have blade signs that are proposed to go under the canopy or attached to the building in a perpendicular fashion, adjacent to or above the principal entrance of a tenant. The blade sign, the way I wrote the variance request, is in addition to the code allowed business identification sign. So each tenant is allowed a business identification sign. So my request for this is to allow a blade sign for each tenant, 18 inches by 29 inches, attached to above their principal entrance of their business, in addition to tenant identification that's allowed by code. And then lastly, this is just showing what we're planning on doing for banners. These are not business identification signs. These are just creating this place, creating the community of Baytown. And these just simply say Brant Park or Brant Point Park. And these are banners shown on the Street of Shops flagpoles and around that town green area that I talked about, trying to establish this area. As I said, we're going to start doing community events here and events that are going to help anchor this as a location that we could start advertising and drawing interest. Obviously, we looked long and hard at signage, and I think you'll hear a recurring theme that if the plaza was fully leased up, we wouldn't have the need to get creative and try to find ways for these tenants who are investing a lot of money to be successful, or drawing more tenants into the plaza. There's vacancy in the plaza. We wish there wasn't. There's tenants who have come in and who have struggled to stay afloat, and we try really hard to help them make it successful. Our team has put a lot of thought into this. We appreciate the town's patience with us as it's taken a little while to get here. We appreciate the time spent with PRC. I've had 2 separate meetings just on this with the project review committee. We tailored things based on feedback we got from them, and we're excited to get this going. It's needed. We're happy to answer any questions you have. Like I said, the team here, I think, can cover questions, and we're interested to get your feedback and move this forward.
Okay, I've asked some questions. I'll just tell the board members if chime in with anything that you have.
I know we granted some variances for people that have banners. I don't remember if they were all temporary or if they were permanent. But with your plan of having banners across the site, would you encourage those tenants, if they still have them up, to remove them? Or what would be the plan for existing variances that are outside the norm?
Yeah, that's a great point, and probably one I should have made. What this does is it allows us to clean up all the attempts at identification that you see, right? The sandwich boards, the banners, the things that are not in uniformity with what we're really doing. So if we're successful with this, we would have a policy where we're not going to allow sandwich boards at intersections or at the points. Right now, when you pull into the plaza, every day you'll see multiple sandwich boards up there for tenants who can't be seen. They want you to know that there's Napa Wood Fire or Body Fuel or offerings that people just pass by and don't understand are within the plaza. So that's a great point, and part of our role in enforcing signage would be to, as part of lease, limit and prohibit those types of signage that we find to be nuisance signs, and police the area regularly and let tenants know Andy wouldn't have to be the only one who takes sandwich boards. We would gladly return them to them if we're successful with this comprehensive signage package.
Just wondering logistically how that would work. I mean, you can do contractual lease things with the tenants, but if the town's already granted them permission to put a sign up, I mean, as between the town and the tenant, it seems to me they would...
I think we're talking just about the temporary stuff that we see, and the stuff that isn't up with permission.
Oh, okay.
I think that's what
That's
Anders
more what I
was
was
referring
aiming
to.
for, yeah, because I know, there were some tenants that came in, they were struggling, they wanted banners up there for, I forget what it was, maybe it was a liquor store?
Liquor store.
Yeah. But I know that
Hand
one
and
stuck out.
Stone.
Yep.
They, maybe additional building signs, I forgot, but
And
they
there was-
wanted
and there were
some
sandwich boards, I remember that too.
sandwich board.
And we may see tenants who come in with requests for more than one business identification sign.
Yeah.
I looked at trying to tailor that into the comprehensive signage package, but it got too complex to try to come up with a way that you could say, all right, we could agree with that to that as part of a comprehensive signage package, because there's so many different variations. Tenants may want, 2 signs because they face 2 different directions. They may want one larger, one smaller. So I didn't tailor that in here, and I think that I'd be remiss to not mention to you, I think that there will be tenants who come in with requests for more than one business identification sign, but I think those need to be considered on a case-by-case basis.
Sure. So, the pylon signs, I certainly understand anchor tenants on each of them, but I'd like to hear some information in support of these applications from the, let's say, the perspective of a, as you were describing, a local store, a local shop owner, obviously some business that is not an anchor tenant.
Sure.
And why, whoever is in position to give that perspective.
Sure.
Because obviously, from a sheer number standpoint, you're going to have many more of those businesses than you will anchor tenants.
Yeah, and by design.
Of course.
We like our plazas to have a mix of nationals and locals, and I know it's a public hearing, and I know one of our tenants are here. If he cares to speak, I'll step down, and you can hear his perspective.
Okay.
Good evening, everybody. Peter Nowak. I appeared before this board about a little over a year ago for this very reason, signage in Baytown Plaza for my business, Baytown Liquor. Are there any direct questions you want to ask me about my views about other than the fact that this is a huge relief, because coming to the board every time I need a sign has been expensive and time-consuming. So,
Yeah, well, we won't take that personally.
all right, thank you. No, Rob.
But let me just ask, did that help?
Absolutely.
Okay.
There's no question about it. We still have folks coming into the store wondering if we're new. But we also have folks coming into the store saying, thank God you had the sign behind the building so that we knew you were here. So the fact that we're talking about a comprehensive sign package that hits the entry to the plaza, navigation throughout the plaza, and the pedestrians in the plaza is going to help the small businesses in that plaza tremendously, because it's going to catch folks at every angle. So, and the conversation about how our frontage doesn't face the right-of-way or the traffic flow is a huge one. That's the one we've been battling with all the clutter all over the plaza. It's funny that Mr. Colucci talked about Mr. Zavegas, because I know that to some degree he's kind of tired of telling me about my signage. We've been fighting for years, putting out signs knowing that we're going to be given a hard time about it, but what choice do we have? Because how else do we get people's attention? So I came here tonight because I really wanted to see this package, and throughout the presentation I became more and more relieved at how it is as comprehensive as they said, hitting all the different components of the plaza. So I'm ecstatic about this.
So let me ask you this as well, and we've heard this from some of the other tenants. What other ways are there that either you or other small businesses may attempt to draw notice to their business, its location, or other types of marketing? I'm interested in hearing about that, and frankly, the costs associated with that,
Sure.
because I know margins are thin.
Yes.
And every penny counts, and if you can get the same kind of benefit through something like this, then you can keep the money in the business rather than, but so if you could, some of your experience and maybe some of your neighbors' experience, I'd be interested in knowing a little bit about that.
Sure. I mean, a couple of things that come to mind are the events that are held, and it's interesting because we talk about signage, and I've always pictured signage in correlation with an event rather than signage in correlation with just trying to get people to know where you are. So coming back to a file for to get a sign for 3 weeks can now be more associated with events that we hold at our places of business. So events is a great way to get people in, and that aligns directly with the mission and vision of the plaza, with the green space and the things they're talking about, so we can bring those things together. We're also, we advertise in the local posts, in Webster and Penfield posts. You know, a lot of it is social media now, with email blasts and things on social media, with Facebook and Twitter and those types of things. So, you know, we have a comprehensive way in which we attack our marketing, but a lot of that has been put into the parking lot because it really doesn't mean anything if you can't get people in the plaza to know where you are. So having this burden taken off of our plate and allow us to put more effort and energy into the marketing that we have built into our business plans, that's a big deal. That's a huge deal. And I don't know what the outcome is going to be, but everything that has been done up to this point has been making our lives easier and easier. And now the signage piece, to me, it just makes sense. So.
Okay. Any questions for this gentleman? Any other?
No.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I can also speak to what you're asking about, the benefits to the client or to the tenants and the way that their options with marketing. I've worked on several projects like this across New York State, and through that research and developing these projects, we look into CPM, which is cost per impression. So in every types of media, you're shaking your head, you know exactly what I'm talking about, that's great. In every type of media advertising, that's how they determine cost. So signage actually, especially when it's directly located on the property, so whether it's on that building, on the pylon, on the vehicle in the parking lot, or even a sandwich board, is costing that tenant pennies per impression, okay? Whereas every other type of media, newspaper, TV, radio, those are all well over $1 per impression. So the value that tenants can find in effective signage is obviously astronomical. So we always work with them to find a solution, and that's honestly why I even got into this business to start with, is because I like to work with these smaller mom and pops, the local businesses, the local franchise groups, in finding solutions to really market to the general public. And as I think Paul spoke about too, most of us, especially, I mean, I've got 2 very small children, so when I drive into a shopping plaza, you know, it's like head down, children are screaming, I've got to get milk. Well, where's the milk? It's all the way at the back of the store, right? So think about all the things you have to pass on the way to the back of the store. They market in the store that way. So in Baytown, your milk is at the back of the property. And if you don't know what's surrounding you, you're not going to shop it. So in order to really effectively benefit all of these local businesses and these local business owners, you need to advertise what else is in the store right at the entrance, so that people just don't drive in, head down, let me go get my milk. They're stopping at Baytown Liquor for the Kahlua to add to that milk, or they're going to daycare, or they're going to Napa Pizza to pick up dinner. You know, these are all the different stories that they can, the stores, and now it's an environment that they can involve themselves in. I think what they're doing with the green space as well will benefit those small tenants. It'll increase that cost per, the value of the cost per impression. So the actual impressions that these local companies are going to get is, it's definitely, compared to all the other properties I've worked on, this is the best benefit that you can offer them, for sure.
Okay.
So.
Any other questions on this?
I had a question for Paul, actually. For the wayfinding signs, are all the tenants on there?
The goal is that yes, we're going to find a way to have every tenant identified in some fashion through signage. Again, you will see a common theme, and as Bridget just reinforced, you still are directing a lot of the signage towards those anchor tenants, especially at the right-of-way, but the directory signs will be more geared towards the smaller tenants, the tenants that don't get positions out at on the pylon. So that will be part of how we work with property management and negotiating with all the tenants for positions on these signs.
I'm sorry, Maria, are you done?
Will they have to pay for that?
Yes, there's placement on the pylon signs is negotiated as part of a lease.
Right, I'm talking about
the wayfinding sign is
signs.
part of common area. Everyone pays CAM and we'll use that CAM budget to fund signage.
Okay.
The blade signs.
Yes.
I actually think those look pretty cool, and from my perspective, I guess it seems to be almost as much of a aesthetic attraction for when people are walking as you hope to. And I was trying to think of the outlet mall has those or not. I can't remember. It's been a while. But other than that, do those signs serve any business purpose to any great extent, or is it more aesthetic and given the plaza, kind of a neat, homey feeling, if you will?
It certainly adds an architectural element.
Yeah.
It adds kind of a little bit of a stylistic approach to every entrance. But also, if you think, as you're driving along the drive lanes that are parallel to the fronts of the stores, a lot of times you're looking forward and there's pedestrians crossing, so people are paying attention to traffic, but people aren't looking up at the business identification sign that's up 20 feet as they're driving parallel. So these, either under canopy, where we have the canopy, or in the street of shops where we don't have a canopy, or these other buildings, it's an opportunity as you're driving along in a manner that isn't taking your eyes off the road, so to speak, to be able to see perpendicular signage of tenant offerings. Certainly more pedestrian in nature, just given the size of it, but you will see them as a motorist.
Okay.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
no, it's just a comment.
Oh, one last question. I know that you're talking about promoting Baytown as a destination, and I'm sure it's probably not all done through signage, so, and you're talking about events, are you working with, is this part of a bigger package as well?
Yeah, I'm going to probably let Howie jump up and talk a little bit about that.
Okay.
Hi, thank you. I'm Howie Jacobson, and I do the marketing for all of the DeMarco plazas. In this case...
Howie, would you do me a favor and step away from the podium? I want the camera to get a shot of those boots, man. These are the coolest things. Yeah, well, come on. Give them another minute. They're working their way down. Look at that. You should sell those at Baytown Plaza. Not those. I don't mean you should sell your shoes. They should be sold.
I got these at Baytown Plaza.
Oh,
They came
great.
from the shoe department, Encore, which is new. I don't know if you've been there yet.
Cool.
Okay. So, one of the things we're doing, and we've been doing for the last couple of years, is we've been really focusing on getting the merchants together to pool their dollars to maximize their spending. So bringing events. So we've had a very successful car show there over the last few years and done a lot of things to really redirect traffic to the merchants. A lot of times people have car shows in their plazas. People just go to the parking lots and then they go home. We've really worked hard with the merchants, and actually McDonald's was a big help to us. We had credit cards that we gave to people that brought their cars. We had over 200 cars that came. And if you've ever been to car shows, you have one or two people that come with a car that just come to show. So we had 300 or 400 people in the parking lot. We gave them a reason to go to the merchants. And they saw a big impact from that because we gave everybody, when they signed up, because it cost $20 to have your car, we gave them $5 to spend at the plaza. So they spent it. You could say, well, $5 doesn't matter. They're in the plaza. They'll go to CVS. They'll go to Baytown Liquor. They'll go to UPS store as an incentive to do something. So one of the things we do, we have a full-page ad in the Penfield Post paper each month, and in there we feature what's going on in the plaza. Our social media has been dramatically increased with Facebook and really blasting out and getting the merchants to participate, getting them to use their power. One of the specific things we've been doing is, you guys all shop, you go someplace,
you go to the post office, you do your business, you buy your stamps, you get back in your car and you leave. We're doing if you use one merchant, we want you to use two. So if you go to the UPS store, we've done some joint couponing between UPS store and DeBella's, the UPS store and Baytown Liquor, the UPS store in Napa, where you go in there and they have a coupon that's good at either place. So we get you thinking, oh, there's another place I should go. So if we can get somebody that's using one spot to use two, we're in business. The big nationals are drawing a lot of traffic, but you know, as somebody going right to Burlington, we want them to stop on their way to go someplace else. This summer, we're going to be using the Brand Point Park where the flagpole is. We're going to be using that. We're going to have a movie series once a month on Thursdays. We'll come before you get permits, but we're going to have outdoor movies. You can come and bring a lawn chair, and you can watch a movie. It'll be general audience for the whole family, and we'll have different things happening on that site over the summer to make sure that people realize this is a public place. The nice thing about what we're going to do whenever we hold a public event in that space is we're going to find a local charity within our target communities, Penfield, Webster, Irondequoit, to donate the proceeds of the event. When we have a movie, we have two choices. One, we can do the movie, buy the movie, or rent the movie, and if we don't charge, then we have a lower rate. We won't be charging for the movie. We'll ask people for a donation, and we're going to give it back to the community. Because one of the things that Baytown Plaza is becoming in this new, really, rejuvenation over the last few years is a real center of attention. And it's only growing because we've got more tenants coming. So we're really trying to get the merchants to work together, which they are. It's not easy, but the small ones really want to work together because they're individuals, you know, like Peter, that are trying to make their living as a retailer in a plaza. And there's a lot of traffic. As Paul said, 28,000 cars go by on Empire Boulevard. We need to have more pulling in. So does that answer some of your
absolutely.
questions? Great.
Anybody else have thoughts?
Yeah, I got just, Paul, I want to, this is not a criticism because this is Rochester, New York.
Sure.
But with the new way you're trying to sell the plaza, which is wonderful, maybe you can just take a little harder look at the roads, the potholes that created after, you know, the snow with the plowing and everything. Believe me, I understand. But I know a couple neighbors that go down there and then really didn't want to go back because, especially from, I live on Creek Street.
Sure.
So you go in that entrance, and that entrance is a problem, okay?
Yep.
So it's just a suggestion to you. I think what you're doing is absolutely wonderful for your clients, your customers, and to make the plaza better, but it's just a suggestion, okay?
That's noted. And when winter's over, which I think we have a few more months left here.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah, but noted, we've invested heavily, and we do have a plan, a capital plan for some significant pavement improvements this year. You saw last year when we opened Burlington, we basically repaved that entire lot out in front of Burlington, and we're looking at doing additional capital improvements in the plaza this year.
Okay. The last thing, I think the last thing, I should never promise like that, but I just want to say that I consider this plaza to be unique in this town. There are other plazas, where you may drive around a little bit to get to other locations, but certainly nothing like the vision here, well, the current status, but also the vision here. So the need for this sort of a sign package, I think, was much more at this location. No offense to any other plazas in the area, but they're set up differently. And I just wanted to say that. Anything else from the board? Anyone else in the audience care to speak about this? So I think we just had all the applications, right? We've considered that. Did we read them all, or do we have to read them?
Took care of 5 at once there.
Yeah, let's just consider all those applications listed on the agenda read into the record. And the public hearings will be adjourned. We'll take a recess and reconvene in the back of the room. Thank everyone very much. So we're back into session here. And who's here? Number one.
Looks like Paul Ryan.
Number one there, Marie.
Okay, wait, do we have to do a seeker with this, or is it still?
It's,
Still a deal.
yeah, but is it, it's coordinated?
No, I don't think this one's coordinated.
Planning board is going to...
You're going to do a coordinator review on this one?
I think so.
Can you give me some guidance?
Then you can't act, then you have to wait for, then you gotta wait.
We'll table it, all right.
Is that what you want to do, though? Because otherwise, I think it would be an unlisted action.
Well, we haven't even, I mean, it's still in the planning board, and they're still, they haven't even had a final discussion about it, so I guess my preference would be to table it. That said, I feel like this is a really big building, so I'm not really inclined to, you know, make a motion if somebody else wants to.
Well, let's, it's been before planning board, right? Sketch plan and...
Yeah, but it was before sketch plan, and then it was the other, last week when they had, you know, the big project.
Okay,
Right.
so here's what I would suggest we do, given that, and given the fact that it's going back, and I don't, if we need to do something on seeker before we can do this...
No, you can table
let us
it
know.
without doing it.
Well, I'm gonna table it, but I'm also gonna suggest that we send a memo to the planning board that we all see before we send it, which is gonna be true of all memos that go off from this board in the future, right? We remember that? Okay. So, in any event, that's my suggestion, is that we put something to the planning board, that we've heard the application, we know it's tabled, we know you're gonna review it. Sort of our initial impressions are...
So I'm very comfortable with that. Do we want to do the impressions first and then move to table, or vice versa? I should probably make the motion.
Table with a memo.
All right, so I'm going to make a motion to table this application until the planning board completes their review.
With a memo.
With a memo
I'll
to the
second.
planning board giving us our, giving our impressions.
Okay, so let's, regarding the impressions, so does anybody at this point have any thoughts about the parking variance? I don't.
I don't know.
Certainly, parking's no.
No.
Parking's fine.
Anything, Mike? What do you think?
I can't answer.
Oh, geez, that's right, I forgot.
You don't have your ears covered.
No,
You should
okay, I'm
probably,
sorry.
you should probably
I'm sorry.
indicate in the
Okay.
minutes that he's recused himself.
He's rejected.
All
Yeah,
right.
so he can't participate.
And then what was the other one?
We got a
The front setback, the one with really caused to a large degree, to some degree,
Height of the
by the
building.
porch. And the height also caused by aesthetics, if you will. So I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it seems like is the main concern
Yeah, the main concern is the
setback?
is the south setback. I think it's really excessive, and it's going to be really taking away from the neighbors to the south. I think it's a very large building on this site.
So are you saying, are you thinking they should shrink the building? Because I think if they move it back, it means they infringe on that road. Am I correct? I don't know.
You have to make the parcel smaller, or
The parcel
lot
is
smaller.
small.
The lot would have to be
Yeah.
smaller.
And I mean, I
Building,
said
what am I
that
saying?
here.
Whatever it is, I think it's built on there.
Yeah.
It just might be too big a building for this plot.
Right. Okay, so we'll have staff will draft a memo. We'll take a look at it.
And I even like to note that, I mean, this site, there used to be, I think, an 80-foot setback before this was rezoned. Then the town reduced it to, you know, when the town went through and rezoned this, they already cut it back to 50 foot. And now we're looking at dropping even more. It's just, you know.
But you know
it's
what my interest would be? Is all these used to be homes, am I correct?
Mhm.
Not buildings. And now they rezone it commercial. And, you know, kind of like the lot on Creek Street.
Well,
Will you
it's-
ever get anything on it? I'm just asking. It's
That will
just a
work.
question.
Yeah, because
right.
I actually made that same note saying, you know, it may not work with the existing residential next to it, but who's to say
When
that
they're all
when it's all commercial, it just
Which
works just
they will.
fine for the future, so.
But right
we're
now it's
looking-
not.
Right, but
Yeah, I
this is
hear
just
what
the
you're
first,
saying.
that's gonna be hitting the first person, that's gonna be the case, or else you'll never have anything.
And I truly do wonder about, you know, if we were to ever have to widen that road, okay, now you've got this, it's only 30 feet from the road. What happens there? It's going to be right on the road.
Yeah.
Just thinking in the future.
Christine, you think you have enough so that you guys can draft that memo?
Oh, he's got a
Andy.
memory.
I did say you guys, okay. All right, so we have a motion to table with that memo to the planning board. And we get a second? Joe?
Yeah, I did.
All right, further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. 2.
Okay, I'm going to make a motion that this is an unlisted action and issue a neg deck.
I'll second that. Any further discussion on seeker? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
All right, well, I guess since he's going to put some more grass in the front and try and make it a little better, I'll make a motion to...
Real grass, by the way.
Real grass, yeah. You know, the green stuff that grows, not the green stuff that you mow, you know.
I think that's, the real grass is the stuff that the good Lord intended soccer to be played upon. Maybe. No, I don't know.
So anyway, I made a motion to...
I used to do my best, by the way, to cover Sam when he was an outstanding forward in the Sunday morning Densmore leagues after Saturday night, whatever happened back when I was in my early 20s. That was tough.
I think I played a couple.
Yeah. Okay, I'm sorry. It's late, folks.
No.
So you're making a motion to approve.
I'll second that.
And we have a second. Any further discussion?
Already voted on the seeker, right?
Yes, we did.
Wait, sorry.
Yes. All those in favor? Aye. Okay.
Thank you.
Well, let's see, number 3.
Yeah, number 3.
Moving along.
Yeah, what's this, unlisted action, so neg deck, no likely impacts identified, I guess.
I will second that. Further discussion on seeker? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, just one second.
Sure.
Andres, motion on seeker, unlisted action, negative declaration. Dan, second.
Ayes. Yep.
Yes.
And then I will make a motion to approve this application. It sounds like it'll fit in well. It actually seems more like a part-time business here in terms of this location for traffic and how busy it'll be since the hours are by appointment. Doesn't seem like parking is going to be an issue. There's 80 spots. The building uses about less than half, but I still think there's going to be ample parking. The lot's usually pretty empty. And with that, it seems like everything fits in there. Signage, hours, noise, it's not going to be an issue. So.
I'll second.
Motion to approve by Andres. Already has seconded that. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye. Okay, McDonald's. We have to do seeker again, right? Because this is a new application. Okay, so I will move that.
Good luck, by the way.
Thank you. I'll move, this is an unlisted action, neg deck requiring no further action.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion.
I'm giving it to Andres.
Yeah. We have a motion to declare this an unlisted action and then also issue a negative declaration pursuant to seeker, and we have a second on that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, I really appreciated the applicants working with us, and I think that as we talked about at the public hearing, I would make a motion to approve 2 building-mounted signs and the freestanding sign. And those building-mounted signs are the arches.
Do you care which 2?
No, I think it's up to them.
And you say the freestanding.
That's already.
That's already in there.
Okay. Thought I missed something. I'm like, oh, man.
No, it was in there, I just repeated
Yeah.
it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so we have a motion to approve the special permit to that degree. Okay. And I think I would note that when you asked the applicant during the hearing that question, I think it's fair to say the applicant was agreeable to that. Not, still in favor of the whole application, but willing to live with that, let me say.
Do you want me to add that in, or did you just say it?
Just said it.
Okay, great.
She typed it down.
That's fine with me.
Any further comments on this? No?
Second. I don't remember. Me?
I will second that, yeah. So we have a motion to approve the two to be chosen by the applicant, and we have a second on that. All those in favor? Aye. Okay. Good luck.
Thank you. Thanks for that.
And now we have
I got Baytown.
5 through 103.
The king of signs.
You guys gonna do each one individually, otherwise I will not know what's going on.
Yes, we will do each one individually, but before we get into the individual ones, well, I guess, so number 5, I'll make a motion pursuant to seeker that we consider this an unlisted action, and further that we find a negative declaration.
Second.
Further discussion on that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So a question I have on this one and all is, does anybody feel the need for any sort of viewing, setting up signs or anything like that? The maps were good and all that, but everyone feel that they have a good grasp on the locations, the heights, all that stuff?
I think for the scale, it's so similar to what it was before for that original one that we...
Yeah, if the Brant Hill wasn't there, I'd say.
Yeah, then I'd want to see something, but...
Right.
Then we'd all be 4 of them, holy crap.
Yeah, you got 2 more of those signs along the same route, so basically.
Okay. All right, so the first, number 5 here, if I'm reading...
Excuse me, Dan?
Yes?
I think on one of the applications, Mike recused himself from one, but did you recuse yourself from another one?
No.
No, he just had it.
I just fell asleep for
I just
10 minutes. No.
Mike was recused himself on number 1, right?
Right, I just wanted to check on the
No,
other
Joe
one.
didn't.
That was
the only recusal. He was answering nature's call, we hope.
Okay, thanks, sorry.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, so number 5 just deals with the pylon sign at the former Beale Street.
Yes. This is B, I think, right? This is pylon B, or the big...
Okay, so this is none of the blade signs or anything. Okay. So, on number 5, I will make a motion to approve.
Second.
Once again, as we've already noted, we have a sign similar in size and shape, God bless you, to the one that's on Brad Point already. Going back to that application, I think we are all at first concerned about the size of the sign, the height of the sign, closeness to the road. We asked the applicant to put up a lift or whatever they did, and I think that helped us a little bit. And now that we have that sign, I think we're all sort of happy that we approved it. You don't really need the lift, I asked, because there's a lot of signs here, but it's sort of more of the same. I think it looks nice. I think that sign on Brad Point looks nice. I think the applicant has demonstrated the need for this and the utility for this. I don't see any safety issues with this in its proposed location. So again, my motion would be to approve.
Second. I think we did that already.
Yeah, I'm just, any further comments on this? No?
No, I agree. I think the whole presentation it's a well put together package overall.
All right, so we have a motion to approve and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Number 6 is...
Will the seeker be the same for all of them?
I think so.
It probably, it would be. You have to do it each time, though.
Okay.
Right. So for the seeker on number 6, I make a motion that we declare this unlisted action, and further that we declare a negative declaration.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion on that? All those in favor?
Aye.
By the way, my motion on number 5 obviously included placement of the word Penfield. So I forgot about that. And I'm hoping everybody's yes vote included that requirement as well.
Yes.
Yes.
We knew it did.
Okay, number 6. I have to tell you guys I'm a little bit hesitant on this one, only because 3 is a significant number, and of the 3, this is the one that I don't. You guys have heard me say it. I don't like that entrance very much. I agree about the need, although I'm less convinced on this one. If we were to approve everything else. So that may not be helpful, but I guess is what I'm saying. If everything else got approved, this would be the last thing I would approve on these applications tonight.
Well, why don't you go to the other one?
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll hold that on now. We'll go to number 7. On number 7, I'd make a motion to classify this as an unlisted action and declare a negative declaration.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Again, the vehicular internal signs, I'm just going to call them the internal signs. I think they look great. I think they'll help the flow. I think they'll help the businesses, and they'll make this unique plaza a even better destination. So I can go through all of them individually, but I think that description fits them all. So I'm going to make a motion to approve. Further conversation?
I just really want to be sure, though, that all tenants are able to get on the informational directory signs.
No, it's up to them. If they want to.
Because to me, if they have to pay for it, it's advertising. If not everybody is represented.
Isn't that their choice to be represented or not?
Right. I mean, so
I mean, they're
what
gonna
you're
have
saying,
one
I
in
think,
front
is
of
that, are you saying they must be, or they must be given the opportunity to be if they choose?
Well, I really think they should be. Like,
I don't know, you can make that.
I don't, that's what I'm wondering.
There's only so many spots, and you have to make, the anchor tenants are taking them up.
Okay.
Yeah.
How do you know that?
I think Paul was saying that it was more, the internal signs, he intended to work with getting all the tenants on there. The pylon signs out front were more of...
that I understand that. I just wanted to be sure.
And they had to
about
pay,
that.
basically, it was like the camp
Right.
charges, that
Right.
everybody had to
Right.
pay for, filling the sidewalks and stuff.
Okay.
So they'd almost be forced to do that.
So how can, what can we do to fashion the resolution that addresses your concern, Marie?
That the wayfinding signs are directional and all tenants have the opportunity to be on.
Have the opportunity to, or offered the
Right.
opportunity by the
Who's
board.
going to pay common area maintenance charges to include a sign, a directory sign, and not be on it?
Right.
They'd be forced to do that anyways.
Yeah, one would
Okay.
think.
Okay.
If they're using common money.
It's a legitimate concern. The question was asked and answered.
Yeah,
Yeah, we're
yeah.
going to do it, so
Yeah.
maybe we can just note it.
I don't like to assume anything, so.
Right.
Right, okay. To have the opportunity, I'm comfortable with that.
You can note it in the findings, in that way, if somebody comes in later for a, requesting something
Additional
later,
signage or
that
something,
can
we
be
say,
a question
right,
posed to
how
them.
come you're not on this? I wasn't given a chance. Okay. All right, so
I'm comfortable with that, thank you. That's good.
motion to approve with that condition. Anything else? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Wait, I didn't get who seconded it.
I did.
He kind of made a motion.
Yeah.
Talks with his hands a lot.
That's a motion.
It's a motion. It's emoji.
I'll keep that in mind.
All right, number 8 is, again, the, let's see. Yep, under secret unlisted action, and issue a negative declaration. All those in favor? Oh,
Wait, who's going to, okay, thank you.
second.
Joe did.
Or somebody.
Oh,
Joe did?
I got Joe this
Joe did,
Sure,
yeah.
Joe.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. These are the blade signs, right? I really like them. I think they're nice. I think they'll give a nice feel and a look. And then I also think that they will serve to the purpose of helping the smaller tenants as well. So my motion is to approve.
Second.
Any further discussion? Okay. Now, all right, it's for each tenant of the plaza, so one sign for each tenant of the plaza. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, moving right along. Number 9. I would make a motion that we declare this to be an unlisted action and issue a negative deck pursuant to seeker.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So what we have here, I think, is fairly characterized as filling in the space on the monument that already exists, and something that's considered by many to be the main entrance of the plaza, but that may be changing as we go. So I think it is important to have something there as well. Again, it looks nice. It's been up, kept up very well, and I think this will add as well. So my motion is to approve.
Second.
Joe.
Joe, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, going back to Creek Street, I want to make it clear to you guys, I'm not, I just want to talk about this. I'm not opposed to it, but I just want to hear your guys' thoughts on it.
Well, my opinion is you know, I know it's there, but there's a lot of people who come down Creek Street that at least you could say Baytown Plaza, if you don't want to give them a directory or whatever. You know, that is an entrance into Baytown Plaza, so they don't have to go all the way to 10 Bar Boulevard and turn right.
Okay.
That's just my opinion. I don't think it has to be as big as the other one. It's just a matter of, this is Baytown Plaza.
All right.
I guess I'm wondering why you're not as in favor of this one? Or what about this doesn't
Well, just
strike you?
sheer numbers, number
Okay.
one, but also that it may be just my personal bias about that. But Creek Street is a busy street. Joe is right. And there is a lot of traffic on it, and I think we would, to the extent we are allowing people to turn right in there, I get it. And I, by the way, I don't have an issue with the size of it or what they want on it at all. It really was just, they're going to be free. If I had a list them in priority, and I probably should have asked this would be number 3 from my perspective, but I'm okay. And I'm getting the vibe from you guys that you're okay with it too.
You know, and just a comment about that, and I think Danny's problem, and also mine, I turn left and go back down Creek Street when I leave, okay? But boy, there's gonna be an accident there. Because before you pull out, cars come flying down there from the light if it's changed or they're trying to beat it. So maybe in the future, some thought about that was make it an entrance, but not an exit.
We remember
That was originally
Pete
the plan.
Pete lived the Sovereign Drive connection
Right.
that we wanted with us, and that was the goal. Because there is a strong population that visits the plaza, and Uncle Bob's was not in favor of that, so that connection to Sovereign Drive and moving a full signalized access point further down Creek Street was never able to be realized.
I think one thing Joe was mentioning is right in, right out, whether that's a possibility, but I'm sure you guys have considered that as well. So, but in any event, so after hearing my fellow board members' thoughts and opinions, I will make a motion to approve this. I think we already did the seeker, or did we not do the seeker on this one?
You did.
Steve?
We did, before we moved on.
Okay. So I'm going to make a motion to approve this as well.
I'll second.
Further discussion on this? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, I think that was the last one, but again, all of you here, honestly, I think great work. Great work on the plaza generally, great work on the sign package. And maybe we won't see you for a while, who knows?
Thank you very much.
Yeah, take care, have a good night. All right, let's go back to agenda. I think we're in good shape, aren't we? But let's just look at it one more time to make sure we're not leaving. All table done?
Are we happy with our notes? We got them all?
Yeah. I think we're good.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would note that the agenda, thank you, says executive session, but we did not hold an executive session tonight. And I think we're good. Any further discussion, anyone? Okay, well then we will stand adjourned, and great job tonight.